pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, good evening. Before we get started, I do want to inform everybody that Laura Wysong has stepped down from the Planning Commission. She, we appreciate her participation, her contributions, and she's assured me she is going to stay involved, especially on the Highway 9 stuff. So hate to see her go, but yeah, I'm sure she'll be replaced fairly soon. I would like to call the Planning Commission as of August 23rd to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Milton Planning Commission. I'm Kurt Nolte. This is a 7-member commission appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations on the rezoning, use permits, concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan, and plan map, and other related plans and amendments to the zoning. In attendance tonight, we have Trey James, we have Samit Shah, we have Judy Birds, we have Beth Edwards and myself, so we do have a quorum. Ron is on vacation, which we will get even. We don't have any public comment. I really don't need to go much.
Yeah, you don't need. Yeah, you don't have to go through the whole spiel since.
But I love doing that.
I know.
Yeah. Sure. Everybody loves hearing me babble on about those things. So, and also just as a heads up, there was one item that's been added to the agenda, a day or so ago, at least 24 hours ago.
Yeah,
and
it's on your revised agenda.
Yep. Yeah. And that's 3C, update to RZ 23-5, a text amendment to amend Chapter 64 as it relates to retaining walls. So that's the fun stuff we have there. Okay, first, consideration of the minutes from July 26th.
Move to approve the minutes of July 26th as submitted.
Second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Unanimous. All right, so now under new business, we've got 3 of the quarterly tree ordinance waiver update. So.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me, members of the Planning Commission. Good to see you all again. Felt like I was just here a couple of weeks ago.
About a week ago, yeah, isn't it?
State your name.
So let me pull up my presentation for you.
Okay. Does she have to state her name?
No,
No, okay.
It would be good for the people
Oh,
that
that's
may not
true.
know
May
her,
not know her?
for the public,
for the public to know.
my
record,
numbers
okay.
watching.
For the record, I'm Sandra DeWitt, the city arborist. I'm here to present the tree canopy conservation waivers this evening. So let me just. Okay. So let me give you a little background. I know some of you were on the Planning Commission when I came to you with the tree ordinance amendments that were adopted in 2020. But just to give you a reminder, there is a section in our tree ordinance dealing with waivers, and that is section 60-4, which authorizes the administrator to waive any provision of the tree ordinance. And the administrator would be the Director of Community Development and myself. The administrator then will determine if the waiver is justified, make sure that it meets the intent of the ordinance and does not threaten public safety. Approved waivers will then be presented to Planning Commission, which we are doing tonight. Sorry, we're a little late. Planning Commission may then make recommendations for amendments to the tree ordinance. So what I'm going to do tonight, a full disclaimer, this is our first time doing this. So I didn't have a template to go by. I didn't have anything to use. So I just kind of put it together a presentation and we'll go through it, and feel free to ask me any questions at any time. And then we'll figure out where to go next.
Great.
Okay, so there have been 3 waivers issued for the tree ordinance. And those include 875 Mayfield Road, which is the medical office, 4855 Windward Parkway, better known as Deerfield Dentistry, and 12580 Crabapple Road, which is the Echo subdivision. To give you an idea of where those properties are located, Mayfield Medical Office is at the roundabout of Mayfield and Charlotte, across from the library. Echo subdivision is down the street from us, along Crabapple Road. And then here we have the Deerfield Dentistry, which is at the intersection of Deerfield and Webb Road. Give you some orientation. So the first one, as we mentioned, was 875 Mayfield. So this is a map of the area, and this was pre-construction. So this is to give you an idea of what the canopy looked like before they started. So you see, we kind of had an open area to begin with. But they did ask for a waiver from section 60-54B, which is the requirement of 1/3 of the canopy coverage to come from existing trees. So the reason they gave for needing a waiver from this section of the tree ordinance is the building location per the Crabapple form-based code. And they also had trees on the site that they originally wanted to save, but then discovered that they were damaged. If you're familiar with this site, it's the old stone house, and there was also a shed, I think it was, kind of in the back. And some of the trees in the back around that shed had grown up after the shed was built, and they were damaged from the shed because they were actually literally growing into the shed, and the shed was causing damage to them. So they decided that they couldn't save those trees after all. Their proposed tree canopy replacement was providing them with 75% canopy coverage, which was over their minimum canopy coverage requirement. If you'll remember from our table 1 in the tree ordinance, it tells you what your canopy coverage requirement is based on zoning. This is T4 in the Crabapple form-based code. So the canopy coverage requirement is 30%. So they were asking for a waiver from that 10% to come from existing canopy. And here is their landscape plan that was submitted with their LDP. So I'm sure everyone can read this, right? There is a total of 79 trees that they were proposing to plant on the site and have been planted on the site. The trees included oaks, maples, dogwoods, and some ornamental trees as well. So they planted a total of 53,600 square feet of canopy, giving them the 75%. And their total acreage of that site is 1.458 acres, just to give you an idea. Moving on, we'll go to the next one.
Sandra, on this last one, on the tree canopy on that one. So as you project the 75% coverage, are you forecasting into the future as
Right.
to what it will provide? Because clearly there's
so-
not 75%
Right.
now.
The canopy coverage credit given to people with a replacement plan is based on our tree species list, which gives you canopy cover credit based on the tree at maturity.
Okay.
So we are giving them credit for trees at maturity.
So just
Good
for
question.
an oak, what is assumed, or what is the maturity for an oak? Do they just, the 30 years, is it, do we have any age on what the maturity might be for some of the species, or any of the species, just general rule of thumb?
Yeah, well, it varies by species. So some species are going to reach maturity within 20 years or so. And it depends on what you call maturity too. A tree reaches maturity sometimes sooner than that, around 10 years, but they're not at their full size. So it's really, it's based on what the tree potential size is, what the biggest size it's going to reach, or what the average size is. It's all taken from the Athens-Clarke County model, which is what they have done. It's based on the average tree canopy sizes they see for each species.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. The next one is 4855 Windward Parkway, which is Deerfield Dentistry. So this is over adjacent to, what's the school over there?
Hopewell.
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 Oh, well, okay. I'm sorry. I always forget my school names. But so that's the location. This is what it looked like before the Deerfield Dentistry. There was an existing house out there, and they did have some canopy coverage out there. They again asked for a waiver from section 60-54B, which is the requirement of 1/3 of the canopy coverage to come from existing trees. Their justification was that they had a small, odd triangular shaped property, and the size of the building and the supporting parking spaces they wanted, we're not going to condone them to save any trees. And they were also planting back more than the 30% canopy coverage. So that waiver was approved. And here is a copy of their landscape plan. So they were doing their planting in the parking lots, and they did actually have pervious parking because they were exceeding their parking, right? So they do have pervious pavers out there. So we did have that going for us too. And they did add all their required parking lot trees and their landscape strip requirements along the road frontages. So they have a total of 43 trees on the site and 11 trees in the landscape strip. And they were planting a combination of maples, elms, oaks, crepe myrtles, and other ornamental stuff. We'll go on to the next one, which was 12580 Crabapple Road, which is right down the street from us, and that's going to be the Echo subdivision. Again, this is also in Crabapple Form-Based Code. The last one was in the Deerfield Form-Based Code, and they were all T4 zoning. So this site is 4.88 acres, and their canopy coverage requirement is 30%. You can see a lot of it was pretty open to begin with. The grouping of trees that you see over there is mostly pine trees that grew up secondarily. I think this lot had been cleared before, was more clear than it was, and these are all young pines growing up there. And then along the eastern side, they had a lot of privet, wild pear, and undesirable species. So they again asked for a waiver from section 60-54B, 1/3 of the canopy coverage coming from existing trees. And as I mentioned before, the existing canopy was consisting of undesirable species, and they also wanted to keep in character with the surrounding area to meet the Crabapple Form-Based Code and have the alleys and the streetscapes and the green space. So in order to do that, they did need to clear. And here is their landscape plan that you can see. So they do have some street trees going in, as well as trees in the green space areas and along the road frontage of Crabapple Road. Along Crabapple Road, they do have some overhead utilities and underground utilities they had to worry about. So we didn't get as many shade trees as we wanted, but you can see that they amped it up with shrubbery, as Emily calls it. So they do have some landscaping going all along Crabapple there as well. So they had a total of 54 trees going in, including magnolia, black gum, oak, elm, and some other ornamental stuff like crab apples.
Okay.
So in conclusion, we can see that there were some similarities in these. They all had the same waiver from the same code section of the tree ordinance requiring the 1/3 existing canopy. And they are all located in a form-based code, zone T4. So since the new tree ordinance amendments were passed, these have been the only 3 waivers we have received a request for and approved.
So you haven't denied any either?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
And also, just to figure out how big, have there been any that have been done that have not been approved? Have there been any that have gone through and did it without the waiver? Or, I'm just trying to figure out how big of a problem this is. So far we have 3, and all 3 are on the same, the third is coming from the existing canopy. Are there other ones that have cleared off more than a third that just aren't in the way, that did not qualify for, ask for a waiver?
No, if they don't meet that 1/3 coming from the existing canopy to remain, I tell them they have to either meet that or apply for a waiver. So I haven't had anybody not meet that didn't apply for a waiver,
Okay.
at least not that I caught them.
Yeah.
I usually try to catch that during the plan review.
And I think we talked about this a a couple weeks ago, but again, what's the requirement for a waiver to be granted?
So they have to submit their request to the Director of Community Development, and they have to provide their documentation and justification for that waiver and show how it's not going to go against the intent of the tree ordinance and not affect public safety. So it's up to them to kind of come up with what they want to use to prove that. Most of them have been letters that they submit, and they go through kind of the 4 checkpoints of why they need the waiver, what kind of hardship they have, whether it's the size of the lot or it's in the form-based code area where they are required to have the buildings close to the road frontage and things like that. So they come up with their own. We don't have like a template or a format that they use. I just say, you give us what you feel you need to prove you need this waiver.
And then it's the unilateral decision on the city's end to grant the waiver.
Well, it's an administrative waiver, so it's basically the decision of the community development director and myself.
So is it beneficial to have some sort of requirements, minimum requirements as to why you would even, review any sort of, petition for a waiver?
Well, we do have the 4 bullet points in the tree ordinance that tell them what they need to use to justify the waiver, kind of what they need to respond to in order to get the waiver. I didn't bring the tree ordinance with me. I should have. I could have read it out to you, but that's all in the ordinance. And it's very similar to applying for
For
the
a primary
warrants
variance,
and the other, what do you call it? Everything has a different name,
A
variances.
variance, yeah.
And more, it's the same language. I basically just copied that same
Okay,
language.
so it's the 4 considerations.
Yeah, it's the 4 considerations that we
for a
have in there.
variance.
I guess since it's in the tree ordinance, then that's where it's a part of the PDC or whatever.
PDC.
So that's
Right,
in-
it's already, right.
Okay, it's referenced through that.
Yeah, so we did not, we did just review
Mhm.
that section last at the work session.
Yes.
So that was all in there.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we came up with a way to make sure we don't lose track of them, is that every quarter, January,
No, we said
April,
March.
March,
The
June, every
last month of
3
the
months,
quarter.
we'll say, has there been any waivers? And we can say, no, there hasn't, or if there are, then Sandra would come. But
Right.
like she said, there's only been 3 in the last, since it's been adopted, so.
Yeah.
So
which
we will
is-
do better on trying to keep you
We're
abreast.
going on
of-
our 3-year anniversary of the.
Wow.
Should have a birthday party.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Oh, thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sandra. This
Yeah,
was
thank you.
helpful.
Yeah,
I think this
very
was enough information.
Mhm.
Perfect.
From a
Format was
Do you
good.
like that
standpoint.
format of
Sure.
how she present? Okay.
I think that works well.
Very good.
Perfect.
Some more color, maybe a little green.
Add some more green to it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? I usually do. I'm surprised I did.
All right.
She'll work on that for the next time.
Yeah, I'll work on that next time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
thank you very
Good job.
much.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the Comprehensive Plan 2040 monthly update.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Shubha Jangam, Senior Planner for the record. So here's your monthly comprehensive plan update of ongoing projects. First on the list is UDC. It's on schedule for review, as you can see, and looks like you guys will be wrapping up all the articles by September. And courtesy to zoning manager Robin McDonough, we also have projected some dates for adoption cycle of this UDC. CZIM is likely to be held on November 28th of this year. And final adoption date is going to be February of next year, though. I don't think you need more on UDC. You already it's covered. So the next project is a small area plan for Arnold Mill. And I'm sure you're aware of the location of Arnold Mill. The map here, the purple area on the map is showing the Arnold Mill area all around the State Route 140. We just discussed this project briefly with the council on Monday. And there was a study 10 years ago, and I just kind of presented a key takeaways from that. And I said, we would like to take up this project. And the feedback that we received is go ahead and do the project because it's overdue. That's what they believe. So we got a green signal to move on with this project. So soon I will be creating a project plan, and I think we have $125,000 to get the resources and external expertise to help us with this project. The next on the list is another short-term work program, large lot incentives, AG 5, 10, and 15. Also presented this one to City Council, and we proposed continuing our 2019 study. In 2019, we had equestrian zoning and large lot incentive studies had started, and it was focused more on equestrian land uses, but also touched base on other agricultural uses. So we propose that we will expand on that one. However, the council believes that the current incentives that we have are working great. And what they think is they would like to have a joint work session with you guys to figure out if they can add anything. And if we need a consultation, we can have it later. But they want to do it with you guys. So I will be working with you to schedule that work session soon. And Robin thinks it should be after UDC. So you guys agree?
It should be what?
After
After
UDC,
UDC.
you were done with UDC. So most likely that's what's going to. So moving on to economic development projects. The first one is that Windward Parkway and Highway 9 Strategic Master Plan. I had a chance to review some of the slides from last month. I wasn't in that meeting, so it was a little late, but I had a chance to review. And let me back up a little bit. You know this project, we are doing it with Alpharetta and North Fulton CID, right? And MSK is a consulting planners for this project. And so I had a chance to review some of the slides, and I thought that I should share this data with you so that you can have sense of where it's going. So as you can see here, they had divided this area into 3 little sections, and our concern is obviously Highway 9 and Deerfield. And there's some little summary over there that says that's their analysis, what this area is today and what it could become tomorrow. As you can see, Highway 9, they said it's like a mixed bag of built for cars, needs a little refreshment, needs beautification, which is coming up. And you know, the Highway 9 is underway. I mean, the redoing of the whole thing is coming underway. But there are some things that city could do. That's what they believe. The Deerfield area, they think that it's underutilized. It lacks the sense of place, and they think that apartments are concentrated in that area. So it could become, there is an opportunity to become a unique place in future. They also had some comments from participants, and you know, the participants mostly talked about they need a sidewalk, trees, and crosswalks, and event facilities, and more connectivity parks, like small pocket parks and public art and stuff like that. So those were the comments received last month. They looked a great deal at the office vacancies also, and as you can see, for Milton, 1, 2, and 6, number 6 on the map, are those our Class A office spaces, and vacancy rate is high, which is consistent with the national trend. However, they have projected that there will be a demand 10 year down the line for Class A office space, and some of the challenges and opportunities that they have listed. The cities could do things so that they can have these Class A office spaces in this area. Moving on, so just last week we had a virtual charrette which I attended, and they asked us for some feedback on what can we do for the placemaking component of this for this area, and we had chance to pick the pictures that we think appropriate, inspirational, and some comments and stuff like that. So that's what you are seeing in this visual board. But my point bringing this is that it's moving in a direction from problems to solutions now. So it's going in the right direction. So now I'm moving to the internal. Yeah.
Just a comment on that. Laura had been our planning commission representative on that initiative. Do we need to backfill her?
Good question.
I think
It's
that's,
up to you.
yeah, I mean, I'll talk to Bob, but that makes sense that, yeah, we can reassign that. So we'll work on that. Thank you for
Good idea.
bringing that up.
So, comprehensive transportation plan has started, and I relate to this to our short-term work program of coordinate with state and address transportation needs and create a cohesive transportation network, which I think fits well with comprehensive transportation plan. The first one the city did was in 2009. The next update was in 2016. And as you can see over here, this is their timeline for this year's update or new comprehensive plan. There is already a survey out there online or on our website. There was a strip on top which you can click and get the survey. They are also working on getting some focus groups, so feel free to join. I have invited them to this planning commission meeting, and they suggested that September is better because they will have some summary from that survey to present, and they can get some constructive feedback from you on the project. So the September is when they're coming back for briefing. October they have planned a lot of pop-up events all over the town. November, they're likely to do draft recommendations, and December is when they are going to go into an adoption cycle.
And I have to assume that the 2016 plan is available online. Is that correct for us if we want to go pull that down and look at it?
What is that?
The transportation plan from 2016.
Yeah,
Yes,
is that
it should
available
be
online?
online. We can look for
It
it.
should be, but
Under-
let me find the link and I can
Oh,
forward
that'd be
it.
awesome. That'd be
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
Thank you.
Let me write it down.
I was going to comment that car in that graphic looks like from the 1940s or something. I'm not sure.
A little dated.
I feel like we're back. That's fine.
The pedestrian is missing in that one. We have a biker, we have a rider.
There's a bicycle. This just really looks very quaint.
Okay.
Old.
1929 Chevrolet.
So the next on transportation is mostly the trails, and the short-term work program said increase the community access and use of trails by implementing the trail prioritization plan. And the trail prioritization plan had like tier 1, tier 2, and that kind of tiers. And I can report that the tier 1 projects, most of them are in progress, except the Lackey Road Park one and the signage for trails. And the way they want to handle it is that all the green spaces, they the trails for the green spaces, they're going to handle it separately, separate planning projects. They're calling it green print. So watch out for that. I have a slide about that one too. So pop quiz for just planning commissioners.
So
Guess
before we
what
go
this
on- before we
what
go
this
on-
photo is. Guess what this photo is.
So before we go on,
Wait, you're killing my moment.
I'm sorry. It was about the previous slide. Then you can go back to your moment. Can we ask the transportation group to bring like photos of the in-progress construction of the Crabapple and Deerfield? I think that would be interesting to have some, you know,
Mhm.
under construct, whatever that means.
Right.
Under construction, in progress, so. They can speak to that a little bit. Okay, go back to your.
All right.
Yeah,
You were
well,
saying
it
super-
just what is this picture showing? And it's like, no.
That's
Any
the old-
guesses?
That's the old landfill off.
Yes,
Yes, it is,
that is
yes.
right. Yes. So,
Favorite
and I got
subject.
that.
Seen a number of landfills in my life.
You bragging or complaining?
Yeah, I remember Fred asked last time, is that going to be part of our solid waste management plan? So I actually checked back with them, and the landfill is closed, but it is going to remain inaccessible for next 25 years. So it's really not going to be part of the upcoming solid waste management plan. But the solid waste management plan is going to be done, and it's going to explore ways to collect and dispose trash. There's going to be a recycling component to it, and there's composting and farm waste management is also going to be a component of solid waste management. They will explore the feasibility of doing it private, public, or a partnership. So I think they have asked for some funding to the council, and it's going to get approved for the next budget year. For the green policies,
Can we, on-
yes.
trying to follow this, the feasibility of private-public partnerships. Then we say the Chadwick landfill's closed and inaccessible for 25 years. Well, that space just sits there?
Yep, because we can't really use it. It's
Right.
hazardous until, yeah.
Do we know how much space that
Acreage?
area?
I don't have it on top of my head, but I can look into that one.
Pretty large, because I think
It sure is.
it's like 120 acres or something, so
Yeah.
probably the usable amounts,
That-
like 50 or 60.
No, that was, what'd you say at the beginning?
Well, the total use permit itself, when they came in and they actually added over the years, I think it's around 120, 140 acres. But I think what you would consider this green area is
Yes.
probably about 40 or 50 acres, but we'll double check on that.
That could be developed.
Well, that's the
Well,
part,
it's
you
a
can't.
mountain.
It's
It's
a
like, it's really, sloped. So
Right.
I don't know if it can be, it's most likely going to be a passive, low intensity use, some kind of just walk around or, like, I'm not sure what's going to be the use, but
I
we,
don't know when anybody wants to live there,
No, you can't.
so you,
You can't build.
It's 110 acres.
Probably not a good ski slope.
right.
okay.
In my hometown, they put a racetrack on the old landfill.
I know.
Okay.
Dog racing,
Mhm.
horse racing, yeah.
Okay, so
I
city
think,
also,
just another quick thing on the landfill. Are they doing any testing like of the soils and
So I
any?
think the state oversees
Okay.
the requirements
That makes
of
sense.
them.
I'm sure they're the ones that said inaccessible for the next 25 years. I'm sure that came from the state.
I'm not sure about that, but I mean, I
Um,
think in general, they have to be,
Sure it is.
making sure and monitoring it to make
Right,
sure
okay.
everything's okay.
I think it's more federal, but yeah, it's
Federal, even
regulated.
Regulated.
Yeah.
All right.
And from looking at the tax records, it looks like it's about 100 acres total,
Okay.
over, maybe if,
110.
or more, 120 because of the
Mhm.
other, it looks like 4 parcels. You were coming about the same, 118, Paul? Okay.
So city had applied for energy EECBG grant, which refers to energy efficiency and conservation block grant. And this is a non-competitive grant, so they're going to get the money as long as they justify how they're going to spend it. And their plan is to use that money for a couple of projects, like demonstration of EV project, creating a EV readiness policy, and then looking into renewable energy assessment for the city. So, I can get you the details, but I don't have it right now. As they keep moving forward, we'll get some details. But the picture over here shows that EV readiness is like a step by step. They're just trying to show in this picture that, just having electricity nearby is just EV capable. But you need to have an outlet there somewhere to put that EV station in. So, what we are trying to get into is the middle stage where we can add whatever we want to add in future. So that concludes my update for this month. I have some important dates, and the flag lot discussion was deferred. So now it's on the agenda for September 6th of 2023. Green properties, as I said, they're going to do this green print project, and there's going to be a survey out on August 30. So you may want to look and give your input on green space property green print project. Placemaking and branding project is going to have a meeting on August 30th. So I will have a better update on that one for next month. But I don't know if it's open to everybody, but I just wanted to have that date out there in case it is open for everybody. And Lackey Road naming is on the way, and there is a short list that Greg will have, which he will release on September 11th. So hopefully your name will make the list. Any question?
Nope. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Subra.
It's good.
No. Thank you very much. Good job. Appreciate it. So next is the RZ 23-05, the text amendment to amend chapter 64
Yeah.
regarding retaining walls.
Yeah, so you should have a packet, a copy of this amendment, text amendment. It has some comments on the right column, mostly toward the end where, let's see, page 21, we really do the meat of the changes. So just for a background, this went to the council, I believe the first meeting in August, and there wasn't a full, there was I think there was only 4 members present, but also some of the council members had gotten some feedback from the local builders, and they hadn't realized it was up for some discussion and adoption. And they asked us to or they asked the council to defer it so there could be further discussion amongst the home builders, and specifically more to the new section about wing walls on page 21. And then, so originally if you go to page 22, there's a diagram. This is the updated diagram of what they would like to see. Previously, it had been a maximum height. This is the wall that connects to the house structurally, the wing wall, of 10 feet. And then we had said that they had to go out 10 feet, 2 feet, and then drop at a 3-to-1 slope down to 6 feet. And so they believed the purpose for wanting these wing walls, or to codify them to allow them to happen, is to create, flat backyards and walkout basements. And maybe if you can show your pictures, maybe on the overhead. While Tracy's doing that, we have some real life examples. I'm sure you understand that in concept that, there's a demand from the population, from the homeowners, new homeowners, buying properties that newly built houses that they want to have a flat backyard and sometimes put a pool and have a walkout basement. And the topography doesn't always provide that naturally. So that's the way that it's through these wing walls that happens. So.
And while she's setting up for clarification, a 4-to-1 slope is not as steep as a 3-to-1?
Correct. Yeah. Okay, so this is a live example. This is at which subdivision off of Hickory Flat?
This is actually,
Mayfair?
Tracy?
right down from 7 acres, right down from 7 acres.
Yeah, right. So off of Hickory Flat. Yeah.
Yes, but what's the name of it?
Anyway, it's newly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
that's
guys are
right.
good. You're good. Okay, so this example, you can see where the wall is. It's just at kind of the top of where the windows are. And that is about probably 9 to 10 feet. And then it goes along. We want to codify what we have been allowing the builders to do. So you're like, well, why is this here if we're just dealing with it? But we want to make it very, we want to be very clear with the builders how to do it. We don't want something that's really off the wall and 20 feet tall and just ridiculous.
no
Yeah,
problem taken, yeah.
right.
And the attorney likes code rather than discretion.
Yes, thank you. That's it. And so what we had previously brought to you all, we try to make sure people know about things, but I guess better late than never. When they saw what we had originally proposed, they felt like it wasn't doable for their purposes. So that's why we met with them, with community development, with Bob and with Steve. And this is kind of the result of it. So we didn't want you to feel like what you did was ignored and it wasn't anything that you all did incorrectly. It's just, we wanted to give you an opportunity to say, this is we're going to present to council on the 6th of September.
If I recall, when we heard this the last time, our recommendation was to have the DRB review it since they have more construction and
they didn't really have much.
Okay.
Actually, I think they're removing that. If you look at page 23, it says, crossed out as design review. All retaining walls requiring a permit shall be reviewed and approved by the City of Milton Design Review Board prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Yeah.
Well, I think what
No,
Commissioner
wait.
Burge is saying was just this text amendment
text
to be
amendment.
brought to them.
And they did hear.
They didn't have any comments, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you-
Yeah,
Because
we did
also-
do
We
that.
also were kind of like, I don't know if that's a good
Yeah.
number.
Yeah,
But the
I
good-
guess
it sounds
listen-
like this allows it to be, so we didn't really change the fact that they can't be more than 10 feet tall. They just
Correct.
want them to be able to be longer
Correct.
and then not as steep.
Right. And then the other point that we have in here is that
The last.
so
note.
long as it, wherever it lands, let's say if they can contain it within the box that's being able to be developed outside of the minimum yards, like the front 60 or the side 25 and the 50 rear. If all of that wall of 25 feet stays in that envelope, then that's no problem. It's just if it starts going into a setback, it has to be 6 feet. It can't be 8 feet or 9 feet or whatever. So we felt like, just like any other structure, it should comply with the building setback, except retaining walls are permitted to be in a setback, so at 6 feet or lower.
I actually could follow this because we have 3 new constructions in our subdivision that have wing walls.
And that wing wall that would, so the part that we're highlighting, the wing wall would be a part of the foundation pour for the house.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a retaining, if it's not a part of that footing, the foundation footing, then it's a retaining wall, right? Because then it has its own separate footing. The idea is that the footing for a wing wall attached to the house, that footing could be smaller because it's got the support of the structurally integrated with the house. So,
Well, I hate to digress, but my home, the back is 19 feet from ground level. It has a wall attached to the foundation that's 14 feet long, attached to the side with railroad ties. And that is where the driveway
Yeah.
enters.
Well, that was built, what,
In 1998.
1996? Yeah. See, I was
So-
close.
Yes, you were. So are we saying today, under those circumstances? what
Would have had to have
that-
been designed differently.
So those, they don't have to fix them. They,
No, you're all
no, but
grandfathered
The
in.
grandfather.
I'm trying to see, under the same condition today, what it would look like, because I couldn't,
Well, it would look more like what this picture is
More like a
because
wing
that's
wall.
not as high.
Yeah.
You would just have to grade the lot differently and
Correct.
construct it
Right.
differently. So, yeah.
okay.
So that's the gist of what we're doing with these changes. And then we obviously have this diagram. Talked about in 3B about clarified that certain wing walls can't be in the minimum yards, like what I just talked about. C, I added, no part of the retaining wall or wing wall foundation shall extend beyond the property line, obviously, or into the rural view shed. So if it's a rear property, like adjoining like Freemanville, they can't have, I can't see where they would do that, but we just make it clear that they can't have it in the rural view shed. Again, there is a section, the next page, 23F, height limitation, no single retaining wall shall exceed 6 feet in height at any point, but then I say except as allowed in section blah, 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 for the wing wall. Also, in 4D, retaining and wing wall shall be landscaped to mitigate any adverse visual impacts. So they would need to have some vegetation. So yeah, so that's about, that sums up in general our proposed changes that would go to the council. So is there anything that you guys see or any suggestions or thoughts? So.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we recommend approval.
Oh, yeah, you don't need to. This is just informational. Yeah, it's just, it's not really an action.
What's on
that
our new business?
Yeah, it's just an update. I mean, there's.
Well, we recommended the old one. Do we recommend the revision?
Well, this wasn't legally advertised. This was like
Oh,
a
never
courtesy
mind.
thing to allow you to, informational, just like the other
I
presentations.
think it looks good, Robin.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I can say that we have the support of the planet because Steve didn't want it to go and then
That's
you
it.
guys not know about it and
That's right. I
stuff.
appreciate it. Any
Yeah.
questions or comments from anybody up here?
Okay,
Oh,
Okay.
well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for keeping us on the what gets recommended and what doesn't after reading chapter 12.
Right.
Okay, and now on to the old business, the reviewing of the UDC article. We're on Article 12. It looks like we've got 2 updates from Caleb.
Yeah, so we just want to present to you what, his plan is for many of the comments that come up about punctuation and all that. You want to go through that?
Yeah, which one do you want me to start with?
Whichever one you want to.
Through them.
Do 7 first, it's shorter.
Second one.
So the second one, Caleb just says that he has asked his intern to remove all defined term capitalizations from Article 7. I
But it
think,
would be for the entire.
yeah, he's going to carry
document.
that through. So that means that no terms are going to be capitalized except for proper nouns.
Would the other thing that would stay capitalized is where we're using an acronym, because the usual convention when you do an acronym is you capitalize it and then you put the acronym and then from then on you use the acronym.
Yeah, we can make a note of that.
We'll make sure to check that.
Sumit and I would really rather see the capitalized terms. Defined terms capitalized, but I think we're going to lose that battle, Sumit.
I do too. We've lost.
Okay, so the other one, yeah, oh yeah, I can do that.
The other one is his comments after he went through Article 6. One is referring to the graphics and the color tables, which
Remind me what 6 is, since I don't bring the whole stack.
6 is right before the overlay districts. Let's see.
Special purpose district.
Yeah, special. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
so we're in the process of updating those graphics, that color table and the overlay map. For number 1, number 2, rural Milton uses.
So that's going to be kind of reversed. What we had adopted was like, I don't know, reverse Polish notation. Wasn't really the right way. So it'll still have the same meaning, but if something is required by use permit, he'll have a U, and if it's permissive, he'll have a P instead of the asterisk and all that. So that's just what he's saying about that.
Okay. Number 3, duplicative text. All the deleted text in Article 6 provisions that were text that was addressed in citywide standards in Article 2. He's included the references to those sections rather than repeating them. In number 4, he's added in the language about the lumen equivalent for light wattage incandescent bulbs, which are now illegal nationwide as of July 1st. Number 5, number figures. Stylistically, the UDC never spells numbers that refer to a measurement, for example, feet or inches. This is recommended in several legislative writing guides that we all use. All other uses under 10 are written out, but 11 and higher are figures.
Okay.
So if it's 11, if it's 7 feet, it will be the
A number,
number
yeah.
7,
Yeah,
not
correct,
SEDDF.
And then he also has clarified the lists for the whole UDC, saying that if there's no end punctuation that he doesn't use end punctuation when the list is not a complete sentence. For example, a materials list, a period is used when the list is a complete sentence that is not related to another sentence in the list, and a semicolon is used when there is a conditional relationship between the list. He kind of gave us some examples. So hopefully that clarifies some of our
Yeah,
recurring questions.
Yeah, those were the redundant ones that kept coming up, so.
Yes.
Again, as long as we're consistent, I think that's great. All right. Anything else we can do before we start on 12, or?
Yeah, no, I know, we're just dreading it, right? No.
All right, well, let's get to Article 12. Okay, looks like there's a lot of, I noticed on page 2, a lot of things are highlighted and error references. I'm sure those are just going to be cleaned up. That's, anything we need to discuss on that?
Comment, and it even mentions just formatting of the page. So.
Yeah, okay.
Get it.
I mean, we'll talk about that, yeah.
One of the things I was reading through it is I was trying to correlate between what was written and what was in the table, and I noted a few disconnects. Things were in the writing that weren't on the table, like stream buffers was in the writing but not on this table as to who approves variances there. And then when I got into, there were a couple that I didn't see consistency between what was written and what's in this table. So
Okay.
that probably makes sense to go through.
Okay,
So under legislative review zoning modification, I assume that the community development director will recommend for the planning commission's approval. It just doesn't appear at the city council without
So zoning modifications don't go before the planning commission.
No, I didn't say the planning commission. I said the community development director. I would assume there should be an R under the CDD. And it's written
Oh,
that way
right,
in the
yes,
back.
Yes, you are right.
And that was the one I think that I had brought up previously to see, I'd like to see that changed where some zoning modifications would come to us, like
Right.
a use permit that had additional variances. But that's
Or down the road.
That's on our long list of
Long
things to
list.
do. On the preliminary plat, when I was reading 1238, it says that there's no D on that row. And on 1238, it says that the community development director is the decision maker after we recommend, and that planning commission is the appeal. So I think that R under preliminary plat for the director should be a D per 1238. If you read 1238, it sounds like, because it says in the little flow chart that he's the decision maker on subdivision review preliminary plat.
But you're referencing 1238. I don't see that.
1238 way in the back, when they talk about,
Oh, God, gotcha.
on page 1238, not section 1238, sorry.
Okay.
And besides, there's no decision maker on their line. There needs to be one somewhere.
Yeah.
And then on 12,
Before you leave that line, appeal, never mind, thank you.
yeah. And then under subdivision review minor plat, if you read what's on page 1240, it does appear, I don't know if there's some cases where the community development director is the approver, the decision maker. But it does mention on 1240 that on minor plats, the city council has to approve.
Right, so that goes,
So should there be a D-PH for minor plat subdivision review? And is that community development director, is that a conditional D? Or should that be an R under subdivision review for him?
so it says, for a minor plat, after director determines, the director will review the minor plat and must approve the plat unless the plat is inconsistent, blah, blah, blah. So it says he approves it. After the review and approval by the director, a minor plat will be placed on the consent agenda of the city council meeting.
For
After being
approval.
confirmed by the city council, it needs to be recorded. I mean, technically, what does being confirmed mean? I mean, it's like, it goes on their consent agenda.
Well, I mean, they can take it off. I mean, if it's going to them and being voted on,
Then it's approved.
It's
by
a
the-
decision.
Okay.
So there's two Ds there?
These-
Yeah.
They both decide?
I mean,
It needs both, according to this, it needs to get the director's approval before it goes to the council, and the council needs to then also approve it. So it's like they're both approving it.
Because the council doesn't see they see it in the packet on this, but they don't see a full version of,
But they still have an approval even if it is
Yeah.
on,
right?
but it's not a public hearing, though. It's just on their consent
That's right.
agenda.
That's
so
correct.
maybe it's just a D,
D,
not a
it's just-
D-PH.
Right.
Yes.
Ah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
On the preliminary.
So on the line subdivision review minor plat, city council will just have a D,
Yeah.
no
No
PH.
PH.
And on preliminary plat, the community development director will be a D.
Right.
Everything else stays the same. And on legislative review zoning modification, we add an R under community development director.
Yes.
Okay, and then one other change we need down there under permit review building permit, we need a link to chapter 10. And then a link to section 1111. So I would link everything in that cross-reference row. And then I have some additional, when we get to the wording, I have some things that are in the wording but not in the table, and in the table but not in the wording. So I just want to make sure we're cross-referenced on all of those. But I'll talk about those when we go through the actual text.
Okay.
So keep the table
Leave
handy.
it out.
Yes, keep it
Just
handy.
leave it out, and then 12.3, I don't imagine there's much there. Concurrent variance. That's all okay
For now.
for now.
We'll keep it out.
All right. 12.4,
So it's 12.4 in the first B. If we're talking about, I know we're going to take all the capitalizations out, but if we're talking any city, that city is not capitalized. Because it says a courtesy copy must be sent to any city that are impacted. That would say like if Roswell's impacted, and so city is not capitalized because city means Milton.
okay.
At the second to the last line on B.
Right, it should just be a regular, yeah, non-capitalized.
regular city.
yeah.
On final decisions, should signs be separate since we have, or is it different than trees? We don't have anything on signs in that? Or where does?
For the final decision,
Mhm.
Because right now, signs goes to the BZA, doesn't it?
so technically signs are building permits,
Oh.
so that's why it's not called out,
Okay.
so.
That answers my question.
Yeah.
Speaking of
One of the
trees,
things on this list on 3 that I was struggling with, because I was having, like those games where it's like match the thing from this column with this column, and can we either list it alphabetically
Yeah,
or match the order that's in the table so that we can nip and
that's a good
tuck?
idea.
Mhm.
So like, since the director makes the final decisions on the following, okay, first one I see is subdivision review minor plat. So if we would keep it in the same order as the table?
Makes
or
sense.
Keep the, yeah, and I think, and then there are things that are in the table that are not on this list, like code compliance certificate, certificate of endorsement, and demolition permit are on this, but not, which is the table, but not on the list on 12.4.
Okay,
So if we can align those.
make it consistent.
Yeah, and then here's where parking reductions are on the list on 12.4, but not in the
Not at
table.
the table.
Okay,
So I love this as a summary, but I'd like it to be consistent,
yeah.
so I
that's
can
good.
tick and talk it,
Yeah, and complete.
and yeah, complete.
can I throw something on with respect to, just as they're going to approve trees? Is there a tree permit, tree variance, tree
Right.
waiver?
Yeah,
Tree
I
removal.
would say tree permits, so that would be usually the removal permits, but.
Right.
Tree-
The good news, when you add all of that, then it'll be definitely a two-page table.
Yeah,
Also,
Not
should
an
that
orphan.
first in 3A, that is the reason the permit is capitalized?
oh, yeah,
Good catch, Paul.
And then H is parking reduction.
yeah. But I'd like to go back and look to see what the reference for tree permits, if it's tree removal, so we'll check to see what
Which
the
trees
article
and
says
what?
about it. Check article.
And then make it consistent on the table, because the table says tree removal permit.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's probably that, but
I think it would be that.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, so we're going to sync up 3 on the table. Bidirectionally. All right. Anything else on 4? Thank you, good catches. Number 5, got a couple online comments. It looks like just some of its formatting. Should the same heading and topics be used and addressed unless the topic does not apply to a particular board or commission?
So I think,
Both A.
yeah, so like 12.2.3 calls the design review board composition and 12.2.5 calls it membership, but that may be to be consistent with how it is in the charter. Chapter 1.
A. Also, in there, if you read that, it says who either maintain primary residence or businesses or comma, or own land in the city. Shouldn't it be maintain primary residence, comma, businesses, comma, or own land in the city?
Yeah.
Yep.
And too many R's?
I think it's maintain is referring to primary residences and businesses, and then owning is
Oh,
referring to
Yeah.
land, so.
okay. Thank you.
But it doesn't have to be your primary business, just your
Right.
primary residence.
Okay.
Okay,
But the maintain is the
yeah.
verb applicable to residences and businesses.
But so just add a comma after businesses? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also online, the suggestion of the text amendment changes to the verbiage in the DRB, PC, and DZA sections. It makes sense unless there is a legal reason for differences, that the content of each one be reviewed and edited for consistency among each board or commission. Some of these address terms of office for the chairperson, some don't, some address removal of a member, and some don't.
Mm-hmm.
Is some of that because it's different in chapter 1?
I think so. So I think until we change it, I think she was making that point during their meeting that there was inconsistencies between administration of what a board is described as and what the zoning is. If that, anyway.
I didn't follow.
No, I know. I'm just saying that under administration article or whatever,
Chapter one?
chapter 1
Mhm.
of the city code, it talks about some of these boards, but then it's not really consistent with what the zoning ordinance says. So,
In some ways, because these, in some ways, are we better off to say, rather than try to duplicate it here and be in conflict with chapter 1, it's like, see chapter 1.
but I'm
You
afraid
need
we
it
need
here.
to look at it because you may
Okay.
lose some requirements or things, because I believe that chapter 1 originally was adopted,
Okay.
it was grandmother's chapter 1 or yeah, chapter 1. And some of these weren't created till after chapter 1. It's just,
For the record, it's chapter 2.
yeah. But I mean, like a lot of this comes from Fulton County and how they created their boards. And
Yeah.
so then the city forefathers, they created administration. And a lot of times they just took it from Sandy Springs or whatever. And we didn't really look to make sure that they were consistent. So,
Yeah. And then some of the stuff, it's covered in the bylaws.
right.
Like I was surprised how detailed the DRB bylaws
Oh, I know.
are, but it's probably because a DRB is not something you see in every municipality.
Yeah. So,
So
I'm okay with the different boards having
You are.
different requirements.
gonna
Now, I
come
think
up
we do need to
several
fix
times in here.
the inconsistency between chapter 1 of the city code and this. So that'll be one of our projects to work on. So,
So it's on the to-do list.
yes.
Okay. Then also, Teresa, I'm going to need your help on this Division 4, Section 2-32B says each of the council members' designees shall reside within his or her respective council districts. That conflicts with this verbiage.
So that's what we have to. I think originally, that's how it was when we first became a city, and I think it was difficult for the council people to find appropriate members. And so this was changed, but it wasn't changed in the city code.
Okay, so which one should we?
Which is,
Yeah, which?
Well, I think we need to keep this the way it is, and then we have to go back and change
City
the
code?
city code.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I think that'll
On
just,
the long
we don't
list
have
of
to
things
wait
to
for the
do?
UDC to be done. We can start working on that now. And that, because it's
Yeah.
in city code, it just goes to council, but we can bring it to you as a courtesy just to look at it if
Yeah.
you want to.
okay. Great. And then I assume the Division 4 ones has additional eligibility, assuming that
Right.
fits in the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the BZA section says that the chairperson elected for 1-year term was a term for the DBR chairmanship.
We can make that I mean,
Some of
yeah,
it,
I think
mean,
that's
I think
what
that's in
everybody
their
does every
bylaws.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. but
When they
I mean,
were
if it's-
Change
doing
it.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff we make
we
it.
gotta look at all those.
Sections.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the planning commission chairperson, it completed as of tonight, right? That changes hands? No. Okay. I can hope. All right. And then on 5 also, section 64-1296, this says the DBR reviews plans, the DRB reviews plans in Birmingham Crossroads and make recommendations to director prior to the approval of the LDP, BP, and demo permits for both residential and non-residential. Is this in conflict with any verbiage here?
One.
Okay.
The comment says.
So,
Make them, I'm not sure what she's saying is inconsistent, but, so it says here, make to the prior, both that in conflict with
I
any.
don't think it,
Is some of the problem the timing of when things goes to the DRB, that she's saying that 1296 specifically for Birmingham Crossroads says it has to be before everything, not, and where sometimes they see things after?
After what?
I'm not sure that
No, I don't think that there's review and provide recommendations before approval for building permits for commercial structures. Approval of LDP demo permits for both LDP, BP,
Because,
building permits for institutional, I can't talk, for multifamily, building permits for whatever, townhouse, blah, 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 building permits for accessory structures, land disturbance permits, except for single-family residential.
what I see as a potential conflict, because they already have all the building permits, but on F, the land disturbance permits except for single-family residential, where this would say 1296 says, no, they do need to review it for residential in Birmingham Crossroads.
Right. I'd like to see, I mean, I'd like to go back to the actual verbiage to make sure I know she typed it, but,
Yeah, there's not a lot of residential in what is, and then you always get into what is the crossroads? It's the
it's
27.1
commercial and
acres.
mixed.
And it's,
We
there's,
don't really have just plain old residential LDPs. Like the last one we looked at was the mixed use at the southeast corner.
Yeah.
So that needed to go because there was commercial. And to be honest, like, so Birmingham had these requirements, and then maybe Crabapple had it, and then like Highway 9 originally had no DRB. It was just done administratively in Fulton County till we became a city. So, and then there's the rural Milton but we'll go back and
Yeah, check
Just
F for
check
the
it.
Birmingham Crossroads.
we'll check that.
Anything else on 5? I think we're covered that. On to 6. Anybody here have any comments on 6?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's start with ours and then we'll go to the online.
So 6, back to the whole, this was a list of what they review, but on the table, it said they also do use permits, demolition permits, and primary variances, and those are not on the list under this powers and review and recommend. So use permits, demolition permits, and primary variances are on the table, but not here.
Did you get that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wrote them down.
Okay.
You just want to be sure that the table matches with what's in the verbiage.
Or vice versa. This needs to be, if it really is, and it seems that some of it might be that perhaps some of that is, if this is, to me, this is just the verbiage that supports the table.
Right.
Correct.
So
It should match.
it should match. And then in E, I know we just went through the review on the update of who has to be notified and how far in advance, and that was what, last meeting? So
And-
do we need to just note that this will,
Yeah, and
Also
he's
need
gonna,
to be
I think he
updated?
made a note to us that he would have to
yeah,
update for ZPL.
Along that, I'm sorry. Along that same in D, secretary, first line, the director serve, that should be serves.
mhm.
And a question that I have, which is maybe out of need, but looking through this, what happens to a meeting that's called, advertised, but does not have a quorum? What
Canceled.
happens to that information? Do you have to move that then to the next month, let's
Yeah.
say, and re-advertise that? Is that,
Right, so like for,
Or should
for
that-
the DRB you're talking about, or just for any board?
in general?
Right, so depending on what's on the agendas, so for instance, now they're gonna approve the ZPL regulations on the 6th. So if there's not a quorum, if we have a rezoning or a use permit, then we have to do 30 days. We are adopting 30 days in the legal organ, which is the Milton Herald. The problem is it's a week lead time to even get
Mhm.
something in the paper. So it's really like 37 days. And then we usually have meetings closer together. So it does impact it if for some reason.
But does that, I don't want to confuse that here. Does
Well, that's
that-
why
is that
we've said
something
that we need-
to add
Yeah, we're
to the
gonna,
list?
yeah,
or
he'll
more.
fix it and he knows that the ZPL changes are coming. So this was done a
Yeah.
year ago. Yeah, so, yeah. Almost a year ago.
Okay.
Yep. And then in F on the second line, must be held at least
Mm-hmm.
once a month.
Okay. Online, anything there? Division 4, Section 2-234 has verbiage that's not been included here. Should it be?
That's charter language.
Okay.
It's what, I'm sorry?
It's part of that charter.
Okay.
Yeah,
Along with current information, has it changed?
that's what I commented about the
Okay.
advertising.
And the demolition permits, should some or all be added there under,
And that was my first comment about adding demo permits and use permits to the list at the top.
all right. So we're done with 6. 7. Any comments on 7?
Yes.
Okay,
Under G1C, we talk stream buffer variances, but they're not on the table.
okay.
So add, and there's several references throughout about different people's responsibilities as it relates to stream buffers. So we probably should make a row for stream buffers.
And under planning commission membership, we've outlined in all the others. And in this one, it sends them to sections and chapters.
Yeah.
And it should,
Probably because in the zoning, it was probably silent, so he just referenced back to that.
Or
So,
it said it in the zoning, I don't know which, I didn't double check it.
yeah.
And then are we going to be able to link to the code or not, since that's on?
It'll have to be done through Muni code. He's not going to do it.
Okay.
But when it gets codified, it'll get it'll get sent.
so then they'll all be consistent. Each of the duties of the committees.
Not necessarily, no. I'm just saying that the reference to chapter 2 chapter 2 of the city code will be hyperlinked in the Muni code, but he won't do it. Caleb won't put it in. He doesn't have the ability to, so, but once it gets codified. But we will check to see what the original zoning says about the planning commission.
Membership,
Right.
okay? Because it should be consistent with the others.
Okay,
Also, under powers and duties, we list use permits and flag lots are listed. Should flag lots be listed separate from that? Or since we're talking them, you wouldn't have to have that in that?
Flag lots, I'm not sure. What duties does the planning commission have about flag lots?
Well, we got primary plats and all. Should,
A preliminary plat, but, so, I don't know about,
I don't know, I just,
yeah, no, it wouldn't be. It would be part of a minor, I mean, depending on what ends up happening, whether they
That's what-
totally
that's why
eliminate
I
it
was
or not,
asking.
but no
Yeah.
matter what, you're not really
But-
making a decision on flag lots every time they're created. So, because you don't look at minor plats, that's
Right,
usually when it
right.
happens. And then I think it will be passed that there won't be any flag lots in regular subdivisions, so,
Right.
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
okay.
So my comment on the top of the second column is kind of the same of, it doesn't really map to what's in the table word for word. So
Okay,
if the wording's slightly different, if we could make those consistent, so it's, and it might be one of those that the challenge is in one section it's
right, no,
labeled,
that
but
makes sense.
we're talking, if we're saying the same thing,
Right,
let's say it the same thing in the wording so that it can be consistent with the table. And then if we can add a row to the table, because it appears we review and recommend the comprehensive plan, and that's not in the table.
okay.
Okay.
And then on 1226A2, continuing down that column, the same thing of if we can make it be the same order as the table.
Consistent wording.
And then item F, appeals of minor plat approvals.
Right,
So that right now, it says there that the appeal of a minor plat is with the BZA, not city council. And it is over, I think, on the
Okay.
BCA's list.
Let's see.
So I'm assuming that should be city council?
Well, we have to check to see.
City council can approve it in the consent agenda, but if it's denied,
Yeah.
if it's denied by the director, it sounds like the appeal goes to the BZA.
Let me check.
Because the table's showing that the BZA does appeals on minor plats.
So are we saying that should be changed?
Yeah,
or-
I think I can.
It's,
got
the
to-
wording on 12.7 is not consistent with the table, so one of them is right and one of them is not.
So
Subdivisions 50. Being slow. Under subdivisions, yeah, and then, okay. I'll do that.
The director deny request modified.
That's a preliminary plat.
It's a preliminary plan.
Final plat, minor, here it is.
Right here.
The director within 30 days. Committee. Committee.
Yeah, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall, after receiving appropriate, decide the issue.
Yeah, so it's the
Decision, so it is
BZA.
the
I mean, there's a
BZA.
bunch of steps in between, but ultimately it's the BZA.
Okay. So that F should be struck?
For the minor plats.
On 7, it's right on the table,
Okay.
Okay, so yeah,
So
so
it's got to be taken out.
so it's got to be corrected on page 7.
F should be, yep.
Because on 7, it's showing under council, so this needs to say
Oh.
So you got
BZA.
that, got that struck?
We're ready for Trey and he's stepped away.
I know.
So a couple of these I know we talked about already, right?
Yeah, section 2-205 is what I said.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Does 2-207 apply? For example, does the city council member designee have to reside within his or her respective council district? I know we just mentioned that a few minutes
It's
ago.
actually interesting because I've read that before and some boards they do and some boards they do not.
That's correct.
Not consistent. It's intentionally not consistent.
About the residency requirement, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it for the planning commission?
So
But it is stated back in the, what I call the charter, chapter 1, whatever
Right.
it is.
So should those be brought over to
So
this?
should that go on our list? Should it be consistent or
Well, I
not?
think we talked about I want to stay with whatever the zoning ordinance said about items, because that's what's been amended more recently versus what was originally done when we became a city. So I think
Yeah.
what's most accurate is what's in 64.
But if it's,
Okay, but-
but if it's silent, the other one
Right,
still
right,
applies.
right.
So to answer that question, is,
Should we?
we can't answer her question then.
Yeah, we can, because this says C 207 and 208. She's proposing copy it here. No, just leave it as it is. It says, see what it says.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And then also about the $50 for each meeting they attend.
I'm not sure what that question is about, because I know we changed it
She's,
for everybody to do it.
she's trying to, it's kind of, I don't know if I don't know if the proposal is to keep people from having to jump back, duplicate it here, but then we get into the challenge we were just talking about of you change it in one place and forget to change it in the other.
Right.
So I actually like, when it comes to some of this administration, leave it in the charter, chapter 1, and reference it here,
Yeah.
so that you only have, when you update it, you fix it once.
So I think that's something we probably need to do as a project. So not just fixing chapter 2, but making that a goal that it's referencing just one section, and then you just change it accordingly, like you said.
And linked, so, okay. No, I was just saying and linked, referenced and linked if we can.
Yeah, eventually we'll change it. We'll amend the UDC to be consistent with the administration of the city code. But we also need to amend that because that's not really up to date
Right.
with everything that it says in zoning.
Okay.
So unless you could do it the other way, could you just, in administration, say refer to, you know, article blah, blah, blah of the UDC for, instead of doing it the reverse?
And I don't see why you couldn't.
Yeah, I think that might be a better idea because nobody looks at administration. Nobody, but I mean, it's less looked at. You and Mary Cronk.
I always say it's better having it in one place so that when you change it, you only have to change it once.
Right.
rather than
Yeah.
twice.
I just feel like more people would have eyes on the UDC than.
Well, and, you know, I think when the charter was being originally put in place, is we're trying to charter this and put this together, let's put it here.
Right.
And one of the, I was talking to Carrie Schlenke the other day, one of the first things they had to do was write all the zoning code. So it was kind of a chicken and the egg,
Yeah,
but now that the
it's established
egg has hatched
and grown up.
and grown up, it is actually easy, because if I was reading it, it would be easier to say, if I want to know about the BZA or the Planning Commission, this is, Article 12 is my one stop.
You said that's going to be that should be a separate project?
Add it to the list.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yep.
Parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Add it to the list. All right.
add it to the list.
Okay, what else do we have online?
64.
Verbiage from Division 5, Section 2-258 is missing. Should it be added?
What is, let me read what 64.
Our comment is just above 12.2.5 planning commission.
Anybody happen to have 64 1860 open?
No.
64,
I can get
18,
there
what?
pretty fast.
Oh, yes, I remember that from back in.
Bad news is I've been reading 21-2 of the SCGA, and I've lost City of Milton code.
64, 18, what?
1860, subsection 3 and 5.
They're on comment 15.
Okay,
What is it referencing?
those are the powers of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So-
3, to hear and decide appeals from the interpretation of any provisions of the zoning ordinance by the Community Development Director. 5, to hear and decide appeals from a permitting or procedural decision.
This comment's actually referring to G1, final decision. I think they don't go in order on the page, so it's a little confusing.
I think what happened is we put, looks like this now says any other authorized city official and they kind of captured community development director and permitting or procedural decision of the department director, deputy director. No, I don't know. It is rewritten to some extent.
So it sounds like 3 and 5 are more procedural things that the BZA hears when I'm reading 1860 under G1. Which it sounds like they tried to rewrite 3 and 5 into D?
Yeah, well, there's
G1D?
also a 4. 4 is appeal. They basically, it looks like what it is, D says appeals of any, basically covered 3, 4, and 5 all in D.
Yeah.
And it more closely mirrors 4, so that's why she's asking about 3 and 5.
Yeah.
So we're okay with that,
I-
the way it is written?
See if it properly covers them. Appeals, if there is an error in any order requirements that are made by any other authorized city official, enforcement.
Well, it does sound like D matches 4 word for word.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask Caleb if the thought process is that's broad enough to cover 3 and 5, because those are just specific instances that are covered as a determination made by, or a decision made by an authorized city official in enforcement of the UDC. I mean, I can see that is, it looks like it covers them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Nothing
kind of okay
glaringly
with, I
wrong.
don't know why to get rid of them. I mean,
All right, and then we also have provide versus provided on page 7. Trey, we can,
I'm looking for that. That's 12.2.5 under planning commission.
very, very bottom left.
oh, to review and provided.
Yeah.
All right.
We invite Mary
I know.
just to come
Let's
sit
just
with
put
us.
Mary with Caleb.
Yeah, that's even better. Just let them long lunch. I'll buy a lunch.
So, all right, then the next comment is section 2-206 says the PC is charged with upholding the policies of city comprehensive plan when reviewing, and the list of their duties follows. This does not seem to have the same meaning as what is written here because there are no applications for the comprehensive plan.
That's the right-hand column, top of the page, it's E. And notes next to the comprehensive plan.
Because Judy brought that up, that needs to be underlined on the table.
Well, actually, what she's pointing out here is if you go back to another section, the original 206, it says it's more to review and provide recommendations on applications, basically, of the comprehensive plan for the following. So it's kind of like the comprehensive plan is to be considered for A through D. And instead, they just added the comprehensive plan as
Oh, I see.
E. So it looks like it, which is probably why it wasn't on the table, because it,
Right,
Mhm.
that's right.
And the punctuation is different than everything else.
so we,
Added because there's no punctuation.
One more page.
So how do we solve that?
Second one
so
down.
it looks like chapter 2.
No, I would agree. So,
Because what it says in 206 is the commission is charged with upholding the policies of the city comprehensive plan when reviewing rezonings, use permits, concurrent variances, and changes to city zoning. So it's supposed to be kind of it's a guiding document
For all those.
for what's underneath it as opposed to being part of the underneath.
Mhm.
right.
So it should be removed.
It should be moved up to to review and properly and provide recommendations. It needs to be somehow incorporated into the leading
Based
sentence,
on
not the
comprehensive
list.
plan. Yeah.
So like after, to review and provide recommendations based on the comprehensive plan.
So we'll fix that and then,
Yeah. And then it doesn't have to go to the table.
yeah.
And we didn't have to have a period
Okay.
after plan.
So we know what we're doing there.
Or rather, maybe not, does it say based on or considering? Upholding the comprehensive plan.
On the next page.
Or,
Under B1.
Okay,
okay.
Okay, did we
got it.
we get that up? The upholding the comprehensive land use plan under the
Yeah, so the
B1?
leading sentence for one, I think should read, to review and provide recommendations upholding the comprehensive plan on applications for A through D.
All right. So, all right, so now, page 8. Anybody hear everything on page 8?
I do.
Okay,
On B1 and the fourth line, the term of individuals,
okay,
individual members. And then in 2, the punctuation,
Mhm.
to the extent individuals are available and willing to serve in the city, comma, at least 3 official, no comma. Misplaced comma.
Oh, we need to, oh, that's a city meeting.
okay, and then I think online, we've got the verbiage about the $50. Yep. Term versus term, and the next one is the,
That's under B3, where that comment is.
okay. About the $50 for each meeting for the Historic Preservation Commission?
That's where that comment comes from.
Okay. Verbiage regarding compensation is different in Muni Code, section 642453B. It says, and may be compensated in the amount of $50 for each meeting. Which verbiage should be used?
Because this talks about them getting reimbursed for expenses.
Yeah, and that's different.
That's different.
So we don't need to include the $50 per meeting in this section?
Or we don't include it in any of the others. Do we leave it back where it was and put, or is this the only place? The HPC is not in the charter, is it? Or is it? In the charter
Probably
section?
wasn't.
I don't think so.
Well, they probably had to create it. I'd have to look
Yeah.
back. See,
It was added.
and it was done for later.
Mhm.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I'd say
What's that?
let's put it all as part of the project of
Yes,
aligning
yes.
chapter 2 with what's here.
I agree.
Save it for another day.
Yeah.
But I don't think the HPC is in chapter 2, so might have
No,
just
I
been
just
in a
looked, it's not.
misplaced comment.
Okay. So then we have Should this be certificate of appropriateness?
On C3.
That's
C3, review applications for
capitalization.
certificates.
It's single.
That, by the way, is something I'll never get, is a certificate of appropriateness. I'm never appropriate. All right, anything else on 8? Okay, how about 9?
So my only comment on page 9 is under D,
Okay,
is this was written when the HPC was a prospective organization, and now they have been chartered but are not currently staffed, because this talks about they must adopt rules, aren't they, and bylaws and stuff, so that's already done, right?
They did it when they were,
That's
were-
okay. I mean, theoretically, they could try to get rid of them and
Well, this makes it sounds like you need to get started, but they've already,
They're
it's already done. The first
Right.
sentence is already done. It's a past fact.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
I understand, but they can't get rid of them because then they've violated this saying that they must adopt rules. Or you
No, what
say
I'm saying
they
is.
adopt them, they've already adopted them, so whatever they do in the future doesn't, I mean, I
So it's
understand what
okay
you're
with the
saying.
fact that we have a basically dated statement?
right, must adopt rules, but that are already adopted, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Must maintain
Yeah, I mean,
or adopt and maintain.
So maybe if strike must maintain, strike adopt and maintain, and insert a maintain? And then we're okay?
It's more accurate to what it
The
is.
adopted rules.
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't hear what
Okay,
Grace
must
said.
maintain
Well,
the adopted rules.
they can change, though. They just have to maintain the rules. They have to keep them up.
Let's maintain the
Right.
adopted.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I would just say maintain rules.
Maintain rules, yeah.
Yeah.
Maintain rules. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right, page 10.
Nothing.
Comment is in the first paragraph.
Okay,
HPC is where. Must,
The
what is
HPC,
subject to?
or subject to and must comply. We just need to add the word must.
so,
Must comply.
Yep.
and the commission is rather than are?
Are.
Chances
Okay.
HPC are.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on 10?
Nope.
All right. 11? Anybody have anything on 11? Nope. I'm liking this.
Me too.
12?
Don't leave too much of a headspace.
Yeah.
Slide quick.
How about 13 through 50? Any?
On 12, at the top of the page, on 14,
Page 12.
on page
Page
12,
12, 14,
on page 12,
GRI?
number 14, that's the first use in this section of DRI, which should be spelled out and done here as opposed to I think it's 10 pages later where it's finally done.
And there's several coming up.
Okay.
And then under the next section A, about 3/4 of the way down, at the end of the sentence, and a public hearing by the planning commission rather than and the. I think that the should be a public
A.
hearing.
Yes.
And then, of course, the next section, the next several is,
that'll get redone with the new.
yeah.
So, and also, what about in A2 and 3, should it specify the newspaper of general circulation in the city?
It's usually the official organ, isn't it?
Or they would have to say the city's legal organ or something to that effect. I mean, doesn't say.
Yeah, I think that's gonna get, well, yeah, but I agree, we can change it, because I think the ZPL has Oregon, so,
Legal organ of the city.
yeah.
Hmm.
But, yeah, we'll make everything.
All right. You said that's in both 2 and 3? Okay. All right. Anything else on 12? All right, 13?
No, I'm just-
And on
All right, yeah.
Other than on 13, we don't need the convention is not to do a page break. So we do not need a page break. We can keep going with 12.3.3 on 13.
Well, I was just gonna motion that we only put one paragraph per page and a maximum of 50 pages.
There is no second for that, okay? No second.
I use 50 pages, that's 50 paragraphs. That's easy.
When I used this space to ask a question, who checks to make sure that these signs announcing all of this are at all times up? Is there any?
No, we don't check. If
Go-
somebody reports it, then we redo it, but we
Okay,
don't
it's one
go
of
out
those
every
like
day catching
Somebody
it.
cuts a tree down and they don't call, it's okay. But, I mean, it really happens a lot. But then I didn't have an answer. I'd like to have. I mean, you can't have them
I mean,
run
we
around
take
all over.
pictures once they're erected, and
Right.
then if somebody says, hey, it's down, we'll ask the applicant to put it
Okay.
back up.
I
I
just,
mean, yeah, so
I didn't
Paul,
know
I
that.
think, if we have evidence that it's up, that's all we have to do is to show it was up at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to if somebody wants to challenge something based on the fact
Just
that the
no
sign wasn't
sign.
up, then the burden is on them to show that it was down by
Yeah.
taking a picture of the
And then
no
what are you
sign.
gonna do? Right.
And
Yeah.
it's, do you, I don't know if it's, do
While
you have an
we're on that,
affidavit?
while
We
we're,
have affidavits. I'm just saying that we can't go out there every
No,
day
no, I agree.
making sure all the signs are up all the
Yeah.
time.
That's why I
That's what I'm
said,
saying. So the burden's on the person challenging it.
Right, yeah.
and I know we're trying to manage, once we're on this, we're trying to manage sign clutter, but like the something weddings sign is still up and another application that's been withdrawn,
Yeah, they need to take it
still
down.
up, yeah, because they're big and,
Like the preliminary,
I-
a lot of times it's the preliminary plots and stuff.
yeah, but like something weddings is still up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The one at 850 Birmingham is still up.
Something weddings, is that the one that we talked about?
I
Twice.
think it's gone because they keep on doing construction, but it was up for a while.
And the sign on the back sign is still up.
Okay,
Oh, I
I
did
avoid
see-
that area, so, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's also not enough parking. No, we approved it
So we approved in the building.
twice.
But it's just up on the other side.
It's on the parking
Parking
lot side.
All
By
right.
by the way, Saturday morning, 6 parking spots left at 10:30 in the morning. I took number 7.
So, all right, 14.
Sorry, 14.
Anybody hear everything on 14?
So on 14, and I always get, it's kind of like, okay, I'm doing a sub of a sub of a sub. But, so like on A1, before is lowercase and it ends in a period. So either, and I think we have to scrap the period, and I think the convention is to capitalize before. And likewise on number 3, zoning impact analysis is capitalized, ditch the period.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to get it consistent.
I think that's what Caleb was talking about in his email, so he's probably gonna go back through and change
Yeah.
Consistently
all
or
of that. But we'll make sure that gets
He said that
changed.
on our call with him, that
Yeah.
other day too.
They're going back through
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Right.
Okay. Anything else on 14? All right, 15.
Likewise on 15 too,
same.
and
Okay.
3, all caps. all leading caps, I should say.
All right.
Check under 2 Environment V, confirm State Department of Natural Resources list, shouldn't there be natural resources, comma, listed endangered species? Or is that natural resources listed endangered species? Maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
I think it's okay.
Okay, got it.
15, what do we have online? We've got just, looks like capitalization. Required to does not seem to fit with the rest of this.
That's on B1.
Yeah, B1.
What is the
Mary suggesting required 4 occupancy land
required
use
the
instead of
occupancy
required
land
2.
use?
Oh,
that
required
mean?
2. So the second word in the title should be 4. Change 4 to
Correct.
2, 2 to 4.
Or 5.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, let's go. Okay,
We're working on it.
Yeah.
all right. Anything else online for this? The subsection and next are awkwardly worded. Endangered vegetation is the concern of the GDNR list has to conform with the federal list. Could you just say vegetation including endangered species listed in the Federal Endangered Species Act?
That's in
That is
2BV. Sorry.
That was back
Under-
to Fred's comment that it's hard to read that
Yeah,
sentence.
that's kind of,
It's the same thing,
yep, I
5 and 6.
should we clean that up? I think it's a little more direct, isn't it?
So back to the required to occupancy land use petition. That's what the original says. It's, do you understand what that? Because it's if a rezoning or use permit is initiated by the property owner, an environmental site analysis or environmental impact report shall be filed with the land use petition per section, blah, blah, blah. Required to occupancy land use? I don't understand that.
I think it's supposed to be 4, we decided. Well,
Huh?
Required for an occupancy land use petition. I think
Yeah, it's just been wrong for forever, I guess.
yeah, probably came from a state statute.
And then they were talking about
Then we're on V.
cleaning up these
Fred brought it
last
up, and
two.
then Mary suggested some additional verbiage,
Yeah.
or the online resource.
Rewording.
suggested some.
I'm not sure what they were trying to say.
Right.
And having read all that code in 11, that is straight code, this reminds me of that, where it's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Mhm.
And my gut says because it's coming from that similar kind of code, it's like very hard to understand. But kind of the guidance we got, it's straight out of the code for
Mhm.
that. You got to leave it.
So to leave like 5 and 6. Is that what you're talking about? Under
Yeah, 5 and 6, they're
2B?
just, yeah, they're,
It's just not,
That's just,
Not
The
eloquent.
way it is.
we're
How
not,
it's
yeah,
written.
I think it's one of those because it's probably a lift from state code that they don't want us to mess with it, but it's not very,
Yeah,
Clear.
user friendly, yeah.
Well,
if we can find clarity, great, but I
Let's
know
just
they
leave it.
don't like us to mess with some of that endangered species stuff.
probably safer not to change it at this point. right?
Yeah. Don't mess with endangered species, is what I think that means.
All right, then we've got, same endangered wildlife,
Right.
other comment on that? Then the criteria question mark, is that a capitalization issue?
Yep.
All right. Link to references needed here.
That's up on the VIII at the top of the page.
Okay, that's highlighted?
Yep.
Okay, so
well,
that's addressed.
mhm.
So I did have one weird thing. So this B4 says slopes exceeding 25% over a 10-foot rise in elevation. That's a 4-to-1. Right? 25% of 10 feet would be 2.5 feet. So a 4-to-1. So we reference 4-to-1 in the wing walls, but then we use different language for slopes.
Well, isn't the 25% the angle?
Is that 25% grade?
So the tangent is
Yeah.
10 feet and the angle is 25%? Think is how you measure slope.
I think
Yeah,
that's.
Because it's much steeper. Yeah.
This is grade.
Yeah.
So maybe we just leave it then.
But it's one of those, if the tangent is 10 feet, this angle has to be 25% or less. It's this angle, not a run to
You're
rise.
talking about the hypotenuse?
No, we're talking about
That's the hypotenuse.
the hypotenuse.
Too late to say never mind.
Well, I was trying to figure out, tangent is the opposite over the adjacent.
16.
The 10 feet is the long side of the triangle, and this is the
Hypotenuse.
hypotenuse. Depends on which
Sounds
angle
very good
you're
the way it is. What
measuring.
do you guys think? We're good? We're good.
Long time since trigonometry.
Or geometry.
Paul looks younger than I am, so he can probably say.
I think so.
Okay, so.
But it's not a photo, it's the angle
It's angled, not the ratio.
Versus the slope.
versus this, yeah.
ratio.
All right, so moving on to 16.
Oh, yeah,
Anybody here have anything for 16?
sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, boy.
First one. Number 2, print out ESA. It's in two or three places.
Yeah,
USA?
they covered it back on page 15 where they defined it. 15 defined ESA,
did?
yeah,
Okay.
In the
All right.
caption.
okay.
Yeah.
On C, as determined by the director or comma, environmental impact reports.
I think that's supposed to read as determined by the director, comma,
Or,
an
yeah.
environmental impact report may also be required.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Down in 5, DRI study. Have we defined DRI?
Yes, it was earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
Or we need to move it earlier because here's where it showed up. It was used before as an acronym, but not defined. It's defined here.
But I went ahead and we inserted it the first time it
Okay.
appeared.
So then we're good.
Over on the next one.
It is, that's
column,
what she was saying. It had been previously.
Yeah.
Sound level greater than 6 dBAs, but have we said anywhere, spelled that out?
What are decibels?
Mhm.
dBA is a fairly common
Yeah, we wouldn't
noise
spell it out.
measurement,
Okay.
and that the A part of it is like a specific scale.
So it doesn't have to be spelled out, is what we're saying?
I think it's a
No.
fairly common usage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, how about C, where it says as the NAL, and then we spell that out? Now, my only point was
So that'd be,
that we
Kind of
do it
the other way
here
around.
because it appears later.
Yeah, usually you put the words and then in parentheses,
Yeah.
the NAL.
just testing us.
That's all I have on that.
So
Well, look, you
up
got it.
on still on 16, on item B, at the very top left, the second to the last line, I believe that single M is supposed to be must. The anticipated impact of the proposed use on an environmentally stressed community must
Must
be
be.
included.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That was an online comment as well.
Missed that one.
Okay. Anybody else have 16, or do we go to the online?
Oops, what you guys.
Impact study, I'm assuming that's capitalization. Should there be building permit in there? When she's talking about, when we're talking about Land disturbance permit and certificate of occupancy without a building permit. Should that be building, oh, I'm sorry, that's capitalization again. Looks like, should development regional impact, should this be development of regional impact? I think that's capitalization again. I think most of these are capitalization. Should this say director or should it say director or designee?
I believe we define director as director or their designee, so we're okay.
It's redundant all over again? Yeah. Spacing be fixed. Okay, then we're on to 17. So we're done with this. Moving on to 17.
In addition to the capitalization, 4 and 6 have periods at the end that they shouldn't.
Okay. All right, 17.
The only thing I have on 17, on the note on the top left,
Okay.
I always like to say, all of a sudden I'm reading, I was like, what Title 24? And then at the very end, it says, oh, we're talking about the CFRs. I think it would be better to say, note, C 24 Code of Federal Regulations, CFR, Title 24.
So move that up to directly behind notes.
So you know where you're trying to look for Title 24. Rather than put it at the end where it's like, oh, there, that's where I'm supposed to look.
Okay. Got that?
Well, I have-
Awesome. Also, okay, so online spacing, yes. Should this be capitalized? Probably not. City capitalized. Should CZIM be spelled out? No, I think we already addressed that. All right, we're done with 17, I believe. 18. Anybody have anything on 18? Okay, 19. Anybody have anything on 19?
I do have something on 19.
Sorry, too late.
And I'm glad Tracy's
Going back.
here. Because I have to say, when I've been looking at site plans in my seemingly, it seems like I've been here a long time, but it's not been a long time. I have never seen 7 on a site plan we reviewed. The posted speed limits of the roads next to it.
No. No, that's not a common requirement on a site plan.
Yeah, but it's listed here.
Yeah.
But it says for rezonings and use permits at the top of this section.
Yeah, but even on use permits, I haven't
Yeah.
seen them.
That's a good point.
And a rezoning, a use permit is considered, a variance is considering a rezoning, correct? And we've got plenty of variances that don't have speed limits on the adjoining roads.
It's not something that we require for them to include.
Well, according to this page, it is.
We're not.
Yes,
So
you
do
do.
we put it on the list to say strike 7? Just in time, Robin.
I know, that's what I said. Come here. I'm like,
We were noting that
That's
we have never
next.
seen a site plan for a
Yes,
variance or
it's
use.
listed in the traffic notes. It may not be graphically listed on the plan, but it might be included within the notes of, so we're talking about site plans, number 7, showing posted speed limit signs.
Okay.
I don't
We don't
recall
show
ever
those on
seeing
the
them.
Plan itself unless it's in the notes. I mean, it's not a requirement.
No, we do. Everything here is exactly what's supposed to be on the site plan.
Are they, but are they?
Not doing it.
The speed
For
limits?
rezoning or use permit, if it's it can either note it or it could be on
Okay.
like the road.
I'll pay more attention the
yes.
next
Yeah.
time.
You didn't notice that?
And if it's not there,
It's
I
in
will
the
say
fine
something.
print.
Everybody knew that. Everybody noticed that.
Under A, requirements, number 1, key or legend and site location map with north arrow. Should that be with a north arrow?
Want it to be. I mean, yeah.
Could be.
Mhm.
Also, over on 16, have we spelled out FEMA firm maps?
Probably do that.
Yep. I know it's spelled out. I asked to be spelled out in 11 where it's covered.
Okay.
But I don't know that they made any changes to 11.
The 19? We're going with 19 again? All right, 20? You would have anything in 20?
Sure.
All right,
On first column, wetlands shown on the city's GIS map. Have we spelled out GIS maps?
I'd be shocked if we hadn't, but
Right.
Let me see if it's
Question.
defined.
Also DRI is in there, but we've already talked about it.
GIS is not defined, so it is an acronym. It's not in the definitions. I think it's Geographic Information System or
Correct.
something
Yeah.
like that.
that's what it is.
Right?
Mhm.
It is. Very sure.
That's all I.
So at the top of the second column in D, it's labeled procedures for modification of zoning conditions, and then it says, just see that. I would think it would say something more like, for procedures on modification of zoning conditions, please see section such and such, rather than just see such and such. It's like, usually we have a little bit more of a sentence than just see another section,
Agree.
even if it is repetitive with the title. Or even in accordance with that section. Modifications of zoning conditions will be in accordance with.
Us to change that?
Yeah, rather than just see this.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anybody else? I know that online we've got should local government be city? I'm assuming that's 3A3 on the right-hand column. Well, the local government. Or or is local government here, should it include county and
It could be more than just
city?
the city. It could be state roads.
Okay.
We have GDOT roads that go through.
Any local government jurisdiction, okay, I think we can leave that. Anything else on 20? All right, 21. Anybody got anything on 21? Okay, online we've got, again, my certificate of appropriateness, capitalization, I'm assuming. There's a chart in 48-609 that's not included here. Is it needed, or should be reference to the chart be included here?
Is this probably a traffic study chart?
Free.
B3B,
No.
do we have that chart there?
I'll ask Public Works.
Okay. All right. Analysis, capitalization, spacing, yes. So I think we're good with 21? Okay. 22. Do you have anything on 22?
Just on D, I think the convention is mitigation should be bolded if it's an E. And then I think the convention for E would normally have some kind of one-word title. Mitigation measures or something, recommended mitigation measures, something as a title for E.
No title.
And that lost intersections over under mitigation, Intersections shall operate at a loss D,
Or better?
and then loss E or loss F. What's that mean?
Those are all, I've seen
Level of
those,
service.
they're all
Service.
level of service terms related to traffic management. Fairly common in traffic, but it's a level of service, F being the worst.
But should we put that level?
Okay.
And then in E, the level of service is capped. Is that, well, it'll be changed if it is. Never mind.
Okay. Online, this sentence does not have an action associated with it. The others above say are to be measured or will be prepared.
The references to C. Right, left column. Maybe, it may be D.
No action. Are to be measured. D, performance operation analysis for all study intersections.
Like it doesn't tell you to do anything. All these other ones say,
Should it say something like, a
Shall be-
performance operation analysis for all study intersections, including all will be conducted?
other paragraphs say will be prepared. I don't know if we want to use something like that.
Yeah, or will be prepared, but it's like, there's no verb in
There's
that
nothing that
sentence.
they're doing.
All
Will be
right.
prepared.
Also missing an action. Okay, that's probably what to continue what we're talking about there.
That's E.
Oh, that's the next
That's
paragraph.
E. Okay, bypass trips are external to the development, but are already on the transportation
So
system.
they're all, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mitigation and said, should those be headings?
Yeah,
E and E?
I caught that
Is that
one.
what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also on 22,
Doesn't tell you.
this does not seem to fit under mitigation heading as I was under the there's one was under the technical analysis section.
You know what?
Unicode. Should be H under the previous heading.
So D1 should be H, and the title for D should go in front of E. So, yeah, when you read it again, what is D1 is
Okay.
actually should be item H.
Okay.
And then what is
And B.
floating out there as D mitigation should be the bolded header for what is E, and E should become D.
Okay. You follow that?
Got that.
Got it?
Got it.
Good. Good catch. What else do we have? Is there a chart or some figure somewhere in Muni code that would describe what LOS, D, E, and F are?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's back to the
Yeah.
line of sight, yeah,
All right.
or level of service.
And 22, could not find this information in section 48.612 to compare the verbiage. Perhaps it was updated and awaiting inclusion in Muni code?
That is in reference to E, about halfway down that paragraph.
Okay.
Oh, exactly.
Check with Public Works on that.
Let's do that.
All right. Ooh, 20-page break in online comments.
I know, what happens?
I'm not saying I'm happy, but
Doesn't mean I don't have any.
you couldn't let me be happy.
I know, just, let's keep poking our eyes out.
Absolutely, let's
shall we?
go. All right,
23.
23, nothing, okay, 24.
23, B, I think it would make more sense to flip those sentences and say, the authority and jurisdiction be the second sentence, and have in exercising, because it talks of, so then the last sentence are limited as follows, and then the
The
limitations
list, yeah.
follow. So swap those two sentences.
You got that? Okay.
Got that in?
All right. Anything else?
Over on variances. So request for release applications, and now this is we're out of appeals, we're still under appeals. So this is appealing a variance. Am I following that right? What we're seeing on the right-hand side in the request for relief applications is a variance appeal.
These are different ways that can be, different items in the UDC can be appealed, either by administrative variance, all these different ways of appealing a requirement of the ordinance of the UDC.
And I didn't know, did it make sense to say, to divide this by, like, who do you appeal to? Because there's really the appeals, or it's either the BZA or the city council. Do we say, if you want to appeal these items, that's the BZA. If you want to appeal these items, that's city council?
Well, most of them are, a lot of them, majority of them, primary and secondary is to the BZA. Concurrent variance is to council. A warrant is administrative. So the top three are administrative, then the next two are BZA, or actually interpretation.
A concurrent variance, the appeal is to a court because there is no appeal on a concurrent variance.
Well, no, that's the type of appeal. So that's a concurrent variance that goes concurrently that goes to city council, like with a use permit or with a. So this is just listing like the types of appeals.
Right. And this is.
Although I don't quite.
But there is no appeal for a concurrent variance. It
The
is.
Superior Court. So
Is
that's
the
what I'm
state
saying. Yeah,
court?
so it's
Okay.
Superior Court.
Okay,
Because
that's
would
why
go
it gets
with the
into then
regular
later
zoning.
being state
Yeah.
court. Okay. I'm following now.
Okay.
But everything else, looks like on this list can be appealed to the preliminary plat. Well, a preliminary plat gets appealed to the city council, and that's not, or is it just variances that are appealed here? So this is just appeals for variances? This whole structure, I was like, okay, what's the tree look like? Because these are all appeals, and the first one are appeals of variances.
And then,
These are different.
yeah.
And then the
looks like-
second one
Types
is
of
the
appeals.
appeal of. But then I didn't
procedures.
see any of procedures,
I think that's the next one.
and then there's the appeal of. Like I said, I was having, and then we're done.
Yeah, then we're done.
So I was having trouble with the decision tree because there were appeals on the table that weren't
Right, but
on this section.
This
The
one.
only thing this talks about are effectively appeals of variances or appeals of procedures.
Because the table says
Talking
it's
about appealing.
for variances.
Or
The zoning
appeals
code, right?
of,
Not,
UDC.
no,
Yeah.
no, there's only two things you
Right.
can,
Appeal.
Right.
it's either a variance or a procedure, but yet you can appeal a preliminary plat decision.
right.
and you can appeal a minor plat. Like, if you want to appeal, and both of those are decisions by the community director. So, when I looked under the umbrella of appeals, I saw more than variances and procedure. Unless,
Is
So
it
if
because a
somebody
second-
doesn't like the decision of an appeal by either the Board of Zoning Appeals or by the city council, or even a secondary, it goes to Superior Court,
right. No, I'm backing up a little bit. When I look at this table,
right?
there are, under the area of appeals,
Are,
you can appeal
Which table are we talking about?
the table on
The
12.2,
beginning.
where it lists all the possible
Right, okay.
appeals. You can appeal
Oh,
The preliminary plat.
preliminary and minor plats.
so do we, go ahead.
well, I was saying, I think they're using appeals in different senses, because in section 12.4, I think it's strange, and I don't know why it's done this way, but they're calling a variance an appeal. They're calling a warrant an appeal. These are all types of appeals.
Right.
Then in table 2, it's the act of appealing,
Like a decision.
or in that table on page 2 is the act of appealing, which uses the word more commonly.
Would we be better to call title 12.4 something other than appeals then?
I wouldn't have a problem with that if it made sense.
Because it was
yeah,
confusing
this-
to me, because I thought they were talking about you're appealing a decision. And in reality, this is
The types of variances.
Yeah,
the types of variances and the types, but there are appeals of procedures also.
then a secondary variance is an
Right.
appeal.
It would be a better.
Well, actually, that's, the procedures is not, yeah, I think the challenge is the title of 12.4 is confusing.
It would make more sense.
Well, I mean,
Variance appeals.
if you look at the purpose, it says the purpose of this section is to establish procedures for appealing the strict application of regulations contained in the UDC. And then it starts talking about what are the different procedures of appealing. It's variances, administrative variances, concurrent variances, zoning modifications, administrative zoning modification. So, I mean, it's actually, the table's really addressing something else than what this is,
Yeah, the
even
table,
though it contains references
The
to
same.
appeals. This is just a list, and it explains what each type of appeal or variance is.
but it's confusing because we also use the word appeal.
I know, and I
to mean
guess, I
something
don't see
else.
it because I've lived with it for so long that I don't see
Yeah,
it.
but
Is there a name that would make more sense?
give me a second, just a second. Trying to see if there's a
I think it would
synonym.
take a lot to change the terminology.
No, I'm just trying to change the title to make it more,
Well, but
because
Variance and procedures appeal?
everything that I have, because this is, an appeal to me says you've been denied, you want a second hearing, as opposed to, this is almost the first request.
and that's what it is.
Yeah.
The only two things in the section are variances and procedures. Should it just say variances and procedures appeals?
Samit, help me out here on, do you get into this where it's like, I want an exception as opposed to I'm appealing a decision?
say the different types of variance requests are listed and described as follows? That it's the different types of appeal.
Or even just calling it request for relief. I mean, we use that later, but it's, that's what effectively you're doing. You're asking for relief from the strict application of the regulations.
Then it becomes the same though.
No, I'm actually trying to figure out the title for 12.4.
For 12.4.
I'm really stuck at the top.
Okay.
Because to me, an appeal is, I've gone through all of this, now I want to appeal the decision. This is trying to get an initial decision,
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just.
yeah. Because at first, I read this whole section thinking this is the appeal process to a decision. And then all of a sudden, I'm into this and it says, this sounds like the initial request for relief.
Right.
Because I
I think the problem here is that there's no official decision rendered that the ordinance applies strictly. We all just take that for granted. So the first decision is the variance. The first decision anybody gets is the variance. And so there's nothing really being appealed in the common thought
Right.
process.
So what,
I mean,
what
it's
word could we
probably
use for that
technically-
title that wouldn't mess that we have to go through and really.
can we,
Typically, it's something like variances.
yeah, or
I mean-
request for relief?
Yeah, I mean, it's titled in
Request
the,
for relief, that's fine.
because that is used under the variances, general one, request for relief applications.
And it does say the purpose of the is procedures for appealing the strict application. In other words, I want relief from the strict application.
I'm okay with requests for relief. I
Okay.
just don't want to have to change a lot of stuff.
I was gonna say, we
And then
are
if we-
probably gonna have to be careful. This may require, I mean, I agree with you in terms of the way it's written. I also know, I don't know if there's gonna be, if we change a couple of things, if we're gonna wind up with 6 or 7 other things, which,
Yeah.
okay, well, now we're talking, there is an
Yeah,
appeal. The
change
secondary
things.
variance is an appeal.
Maybe this can be on our list of
Yeah, I think-
to-dos.
But the only thing, the only thing that threw me was the title. Once I've realized, oh, we're not really talking about what I think of as appeals, we're talking about the original variances, then I was fine. It's the title that threw me. And if we fix the
Yeah.
title, I'm fine with everything else.
Let's put that retitling on the list to to-dos. You good with that? Or do you want to know?
I think of relief is,
Request for relief? Under,
and that
for the heading, for the title,
that
for the heading of
to the title.
Yeah.
12.4, instead of appeals, request for relief?
Section A, it references appeal.
Right.
Bodies of
Yeah.
appeals are authorized here.
But I'm appealing, but it's getting into what you're appealing, which is the strict application of the regulations. As opposed to
I mean, to be consistent, procedures for requesting relief from.
Yeah, that would work.
It's good.
And
The procedures for requesting relief.
right, and then the next sentence, requests for relief are authorized. You know,
That would be
Type
the
of-
title.
request.
Oh,
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
yeah, what's the title
That's, the title is,
for requesting?
Procedure for.
procedures for request for relief
Mhm.
or or request for relief procedures?
I like that better. Request for relief procedure.
I think if in the original title and paragraph, we just strike out appeals and put request for relief on A, and the second line, strike out appealing, requesting relief from, and then where it says appeals, requests for relief are authorized herein. Because then we talk about, like on the second column, under A1, a variance is a request for relief from the provisions of this UDC. So I think we're consistent there of what we're really talking about, which is request for relief.
Those three changes, the title, appeals, and the type of appeal.
There's a fourth one, the type of request. That's
Type of request, yeah. And then it's kind of like, no, this is not appealing a decision. This is, which is what I'm in my brain, and a reference in any legal document is an appeal is, I didn't like the first decision. What's my second hearing?
Are we, can we make those, are we good with those changes?
Okay, let's go over it again, because I'm.
Okay,
so
12
either I
dot-
can't hear or something.
Okay, 12.4 is, instead of appeals, should be request for relief.
Request for relief. What?
It doesn't matter, just request for relief.
Just
It's
like
a
it doesn't
title.
matter what appeal. So then we go to, in paragraph A, purpose, everywhere it says appeals, which is,
3 times.
second line.
It would say, the second line would say, is to establish procedures for request for relief,
Requesting
Requesting
relief
relief.
from.
requesting relief.
From the
From.
strict applications of regulations contained in this. And then the second appeals, what did we want to change that to?
Requests for relief.
Okay.
A little bit further in that sentence would be the type of request.
Okay. Got all that. Right here.
okay,
Okay, now I know what this whole chapter's about.
all right. So 24, anybody have any on page 24?
On page 24, in the very last paragraph, 7A.
Okay.
I think you strike the word "and." A request for primary variance from any UDC provision that is not being handled as a minor administrative merit, an administrative minor, something, warrant or concur, an administrative
Variance.
minor,
They're all types of variances.
The types of variant.
yeah, warrant or concurrent variances will
a
be.
warrant,
I
isn't
think you strike "and." There's an "and" after variance that is left over from something.
Okay,
Nothing else on that page.
all
sir.
right.
That's it, hang on a second.
Does this need to be?
There's no such thing as a warrant variance, right?
It's not being handled as a minor. That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
There's probably is a minor administrative, minor, or concurrent variance or warrant.
I like to put warrant last since it's.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a minor variance, an administrative minor
Yeah,
variance, a
so
warrant, and a
minor,
concurrent
there's-
variance.
Both.
One
4
them
types of
is
variance.
minor, administrative.
Concurrent.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, there is a minor administrative variance and a minor variance.
We're talking about 4, a minor, an administrative minor, a warrant, and a concurrent, 4 types of variances.
Right.
Except
good.
that a warrant isn't a warrant variance.
We need to switch those.
So should it be as a minor, administrative minor, or concurrent variance, or warrant?
That's right.
Yeah,
Just because warrants are a different.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
We need these italics on the. This is italic.
Or you could just say minor variance, administrative minor variance, warrant, or concurrent variance.
Okay,
So we just moved warrant to after variant, or warrant. Okay, that's it.
all right.
Right above 3, just night sky illumination. Night sky.
Nice,
Missing the T.
nice guy.
Nice,
Nice guy.
Night sky.
nice guy.
That's good.
Good catch, yeah. All right, page 25.
Nice catch, Sumit.
I spy with my eye.
It, it looks like we talk about in 7A that those variances will be heard and decided. And then we don't have the same wording about city council. It's just, so it needs also will be heard and decided by
Yeah.
city council.
Okay,
Just the spacing on that page too.
all right, anything else on 25? All right, 26.
I think 26, just, my previous comment in a previous meeting about if you're doing a variance where there was a use permit, that I feel it should come before the planning commission. I think that's where this has to go. So I think this is where it says you can skip us.
I'm sorry, where I was looking at her when you.
Oh, that's right. This section B1, I had put the parking lot item before to relook at if someone is coming in with a new variance on an existing use permit. Right now, they don't need to come to us, and I said, I feel they should, and I think this is where that would go. So if you want a note for the parking lot, I think this is where it allows it to skip us. Yeah.
For the list.
Okay, do we have that on the parking lot? All right, 26. Good with that. 27. Anybody have 27? Halfway done. 28.
On J1A, I think that's where, another place where that new law notification comes in A and B. And C on the next page.
Do we get that? Okay. So anything else on 28? 29. Anything here? Nope. 30. Okay, nothing on 30. 31, we're on a roll. Anything on 31?
I had one question back on 29,
Okay.
because the decisions,
So, wait a minute, on page 30, we'll fix that, on appeals, the O. I think we talked about that before, the update it. Yeah, because there's not the writ of different.
Sure,
yeah,
So we'll catch that with the ZPL.
Right.
yep. Back on 29, under K4, and this talks about, if you want to, you can, you do the public notification, and then you can defer. And I think they call that hold for further study, but there's a stipulation that it has to be not less than 30 days. What if really it's the month of February where there's only 28 days in the month and you want to defer it to March? Does it really have to be, does it really have to be restricted to not less than? I could see if there's a not more than, but what if you want to do it for 26 days? Because it happens to be when the next meeting falls in the short month of February.
I mean, it's,
I don't know why it's there.
we can get rid of it.
Okay.
I could see where it would say you can't, and then there was one meeting I was watching online where they say, oh, we wanted to defer for that for 30 days. And say, yeah, but your next meeting is 31 days out. You're really deferring it to the next meeting.
So just
Yeah.
delete,
Yeah, if you were just striking 4.
So we're going to strike
not less than.
not less than 30 days. Hold for
Or
30.
just hold for further review. So
Yeah, hold for further
hold for
study.
further study, then just scratch the.
Semicolon or.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right. 30, Robin, you commented on that, that you need to follow through with. All right, anybody else on 30? No. 31,
I wanted to make sure I understood what Q meant. So I come in for a variance to allow my pool to be encroach the setback for 2 feet. If I don't build my pool for 3 years, I got to come back?
That's right.
Okay, so what does it mean to use your variance? Because if we give a variance that says your setback was going to be 100 feet, it was required to be 100 feet, but now it's only 10, what does it mean not to use those 90 feet? If you just leave it there, does it go away after 3 years because you didn't do anything on that property for 3 years?
No, I don't think so. As long as you're violating the code, but it's okay because you have a variance, I think you're using your variance in the partial use question, if that's what I understood you to be asking in that second scenario.
Well, but if I apply the idea that said, I got a variance to allow my pool to encroach in. If I got a variance that said, okay, I'm going to set it, so instead of my 100-foot setback, I have 10. If I don't put anything in that 90 feet, have I effectively
That's what I'm
not
saying. It's a
used my
single,
variance?
you use the variance to put your pool in. So you used the variance
Yeah,
that was
that one I
granted.
understand, but the idea that it's not used. So if I get a setback, if I get a variance that says your setback instead of being 100 feet is only 10 feet, and I don't put anything in that 90 feet, is that effectively not used?
If you don't put anything ever,
Well, in the
You-
3
you-
years.
the situation, you ask for a variance and you don't put anything in the variance area. That's what this says is you need to get a new variance.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Although rezonings and use permits, there used to be, in Fulton County, they would expire after 36 months, but we took
Yeah.
that out.
So that becomes that would become my follow-on question. If you had a use permit with concurrent variances and you use the use permit, but not all the concurrent variances, do the variances you don't use go away?
Yeah.
yeah, I would.
why I don't like sunset provisions.
I know you don't like, yes.
So I think if all things equal, we would probably get rid of the sunset for the variances too. That would be a policy decision, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. It would
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
But
No, but in her question, so you're using 10 and you're not using the back 90 feet.
So I had a requirement to have 100-foot setback from a property line for my development, and I got a variance to move that to 10 feet. So I got a variance that said, oh, my setback isn't 100, it's 10. But I don't put anything in that 90 feet for 3 years. Do I lose that and I'm now back to 100 foot on my setback?
Right, unless you use it, yeah. And so
Yeah,
let's
what's
say on the
considered-
38th
What-
month, you
define
say,
use.
oh, I'm going to build what I was going to build, you were going to have to come
Yeah,
back.
Using it means you change changed it, you put a shed there, you put something on it. I mean,
I mean, yeah, what's use? Could it just be grass?
Well, usually when you get variances, it's
Or something
conditional,
specific.
and it's conditional on a site plan, and it's very specific.
yeah,
So if you do not do that specific use, then no, you can't keep it.
Yeah.
And then, for instance, we've had in situations with swimming pools. So they got a variance and it was conditioned to the site plan and it was a certain shape and it had a certain size deck and all these things. And they're like, well, we want to reconfigure our swimming pool, but it's going to look different and it's going to be a different shape and it's going to have different size decking. So they have to come back again because they're not building it to what they were conditioned to with the variance.
right.
So they're very specific. I mean, we wouldn't just give somebody, oh, you get to go down to 10 feet just willy-nilly. You have to show us what you're going to do.
Mhm.
So.
Okay.
All right, 31?
I needed clarification on what use.
Yeah, no, that's
Kind of
good.
what's me. What do you mean by use?
Yep. All right, page 32. Anybody have any on 32?
A1 to link Article 8. Data link for Article 8 there as well. It's linked to other places on the page, but not.
Okay. All right, got that? All right, 33?
Question under F, accessory uses. Structures and land may be used for uses customarily incidental. Can you specifically give me a definition of customarily incidental?
I mean, I don't know if there's a definition, but I think it's exactly what's customarily subordinate to what a primary use is, like
Like a shed.
a shed to a house or a dumpster to a restaurant or a whatever,
But this is kind of the discretion of the director.
Right, yeah.
Director.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on 33? All right, 34. 35.
On page 35, under H, all proposals to subdivide, comma.
Combine or recombine parcels.
I just add a comma.
Good. Anybody else on 35?
I hadn't fallen asleep yet.
All right. 36. All right. 37.
Again, we're getting into the notice things that got updated with the latest on 37.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The notice, the
ZPO.
time and how many people have to be, we just updated that, so
Okay.
there's another place, yet another place.
All right. 38.
Fix the spacing.
38 is good.
Maybe make the chart more readable, unless my eyes are just getting blurry.
Mine too.
We could remake this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll do
And
that.
then also on a link to section 11.3, tree canopy.
Okay. 39. We're good. 40. All right.
Yeah.
41.
On 40, I wanted to make sure the minor plat approval Oh, we already talked about that where we had to put a D under city council. Okay, never mind.
On the chart.
So 41. All
You
right,
can redo that other one too.
Yep, I have the note. We'll just clean them up so that you can read them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
all right, 42. Online, we had a few issues on 42, it looked like. Not using a period at the end of the first statement. It
Yeah,
follows
it's that
same
standard format.
formatting. Yeah, there should be an and at the end of each subsection. Evaluation of properties within historic districts needed, is that needed here, or is a?
Right column.
Evaluation of properties within historic districts, colon. Individual properties within historic districts must be classified as. Oh, it's just, the historic districts are repetitive again and again. We got historic districts in the first,
Right.
and then, I mean, I don't know if that's a biggie. Anybody have any heartburn over that?
Okay.
Okay.
And they're all written like that.
Call, yeah.
They're all like
written the
that.
same way.
I don't know
Okay.
why.
First sentence with the call.
Okay. Should of the city be added after map?
That's on B2 on the right column, referring to the official zoning map.
Okay, are we good with that?
Add city, yes.
Official city zoning map versus
42?
Oh, yeah. Right here. Oh, official zoning map of the city.
inferred.
I think it's fine
there
the way
other
it
zoning
is. I
maps?
think it's,
Yeah.
it should be a defined term. Is it under, in our definitions? Misdefinition? Keeper of the definitions?
Yeah, my ragtag too.
Can't believe I missed one.
Not under zoning map. Let's see if it's under official zoning map.
Or under map?
Not under official zoning map. It is not a defined term.
Okay, so, yeah, I guess we can say
The city
that.
of Milton zoning map? Take
Or
out
the official city zoning map.
Official city.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on 42 while we're here? Nope. 43? A couple
So
online.
we did get on 42, like all those, we only need an and after C and an or after C. We don't need them after A and B. You can strike the ands and A and B and C on the first section and A, B, and C on the section, because our thing has been more, it's colon, 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 and then the last one, or. We haven't put an or an and on every colon, semicolon.
So we're removing all the,
Removing most of the ands
Yours
except
and the ands?
and orange.
okay. You guys agree? Okay.
Likewise on 43. Don't need all those ors.
That's okay.
Like funny.
I got it.
You need the one on C, but not D,
I got it.
or C, but not A and B.
All right. 43 online, we've got, does this mean that a non-contributing property does not meet the criteria in section 12.7.1.b.1? If so, it might be clear to say that. Okay. Do we know where that top comment is from?
Can't find it.
It's placed on the B at the very top of the left-hand column.
For historical properties.
Just above that, it says non-contributing.
What was the question? It just says they're either contributing or non-contributing. The comment was what?
Does it meet the criteria in section 12.7.1?
I think that number's wrong.
Contributing property
12 points.
does meet the criteria.
So there's either contributing or non-contributing. Or non-contributing does not contribute to the district as provided for. I don't know. I mean, it's, okay, I understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see
Okay,
any problem with it.
Yeah, I think
we're good? All right, spacing be fixed. Described, or certificate of appropriateness again, describe instead of describe is.
That one is on 2A on the right-hand column. Describes.
Or describe, okay. Anything else on 43?
Under 3, our convention has been city council, not Milton City Council. And here's a question, would the HPC be subject to the same, I guess they'd be subject to the same zoning, that notice laws that we
They
just
are for
updated?
anything they have a final decision on,
Okay.
and that was addressed, so it will need to be addressed. If it-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the ZPO, yeah.
Okay. 44. Should Historical Preservation Division and Department of Natural, it looks like capitalization, same with certificate of appropriateness. And then where does section 12.7.1.c require a report? The only area where I saw a report mentioned was 12.7.1.a.3. Is that the report being referenced? If so, should this reference be changed?
Can't prove but me.
Right, so let's
So
see. Oh, yeah, they don't say anything about a report.
number 4, notification,
Historic preservation.
must submit the report required in that section to the Historic Preservation Division. And I think what is being said online is that that doesn't require a report. Or it doesn't, section 12.7.1.c doesn't say report.
Yeah, I would think it was.
Seems like a fair question.
Yeah. I would say it would be the 12.7.1A.3, because then it talks about what the report should consist of. And that's what they have to evaluate, so yeah.
So change the section to the 12.7.1.a.3.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're all good there. Anything else on 44? All right, 45.
On 44, no period after ordinary maintenance or repair.
On the bottom, A?
A, and then it follows on B as well.
Okay. Anything else on 45? We got a few.
Yeah, I was having trouble, penalties, a person commits an offense if they violate. I wasn't sure which subsection they were referring to, because this subsection is the penalties itself. Were they trying to refer to 12.7.2, that it's a penalty? Or were they just trying to refer to 12? I couldn't figure out which subsection they were violating, because it can't be
12.7. My guess
Was
is
it
it's
just-
12.7 generally.
12.7 generally, not just the maintenance.
Maybe.
Because
No.
there is also another, at the very end of 12.7, I think another set of penalties. I don't think this is the only penalties? Or maybe at the end of section 12, there was another set of penalties, but again, it was getting late. Yeah, there's another set of penalties for 12.8. That was more specifically 12.8 for the demolition permits. So I'm not sure which, is it all of 12.7? Because a lot of 12, like 12.7.1 is more how you designate it. And then 12.7.2 is specific to maintaining it. So my thought is they were really referring to 12.7.2 because you wouldn't have a penalty for applying for one.
I mean,
12.7.1
that's
is more
fine.
about applying.
You got 12.7.4 that if you don't comply with those requirements. I would almost suggest.
Yeah,
that
it
you
was
put
just a
this
weird,
after.
yeah, that was my other side. Should this be the last section of
Yes.
12.7 and refer to all of, to both 12.7.2 and 12.7.3?
4, which becomes 3. Or, yeah, 4, which becomes 3.
So I'm more with you that says this section on penalties should be at the end of 12.7 and refer to both 12.7.2 and 12.7, what is now 4.
That makes sense, although I don't think it's a problem to refer to 12.7.1 because no one's going to violate that, so it won't come
Or
into
so
play.
you want to just say, or you could, but penalties is usually at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's pretty typical.
So move it to the last section of 12.7 and then have it refer to 12 of this section, subsection 12.7.
Yeah, I like that.
Got that?
Yep.
All right, you guys are good?
Hold on. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And then online, need an if between offense and they?
That is in that same section. we
Okay,
just talked about.
okay, never mind. Anything else on 45? Okay. 46. Any comments on 46 here? We got a couple online. Actual numbers, we had the email, we saw that earlier, actual numbers. Certificate of appropriateness. If actual numbers are used throughout the rest of the article, should fly up. Should certificate appropriate, yep. Out of certificate of appropriateness issues. So I think we're good.
Capitalized.
Yeah. So I think we're good with 46. 47.
Same thing, certificate.
Yep, same thing there. And then we've got, should these options be put into bullets rather than a running sentence for consistency within the document?
Referring to F.
Okay, certificate of, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that looks, I don't know why they wouldn't have already.
Yeah, I mean, they're spelled out, I mean, they're already bulletized, kind of.
Yeah.
So should be listed. Good catch.
I
they
think
just want them
though, like,
Listed.
listed.
Yeah.
they should be listed, but I don't think,
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
think they
that,
should
I
be
think they
bullets.
would be 1, 2, and 3, not I, and triple I.
Right. they'd be-
Correct. So the numbers would change.
Okay. All right, anything else on 47?
Then we said the appropriateness.
All right, 48. Got a bunch of things online. I'm hoping it's a lot of inappropriateness.
Could be
Comment is column 2.
At least
second
5,
line.
7, 9,
Yeah.
at least 9 I count.
Is your job in retirement going to
And-
be a stand-up comedian?
Or a sit-down, take it comedian.
Don't quit his day job.
Yeah. Fair enough. You're absolutely right. Okay,
Trying to find
getting
it.
back to the task at hand. 48, do we have anything on 48?
I think the online comments were trying to point out on J that, at that level where you have leading letter capitalized and no period at the end.
Okay,
Mhm. Okay, went right through that.
anything else on 48?
The online comment that says is or needed here is referring to the second line of the second column.
Right.
Difficulty or hardship provided such variances, modifications, or interpretations.
Or,
Okay. Got it?
Okay.
Anything else on 48? 49. Again, a couple of appropriates and capitalization pieces in there.
So here's the same thing, K, L, M, and N.
God bless you.
Leading letter capitalized, no period at the end.
Okay.
on which one, Judy? I'm sorry.
All of the
them, All
above.
of them. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see it, okay.
All right, 49, is that pretty much what was on there? Okay. Page 50. We've got, again, looks like a little bit of capitalization.
50 again, appeals, no period at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on 50? 51. General question, should the COE notification process be included in this section? I believe it may have changed by a text amendment this year.
12.8.1.
12.8.1, certificate of endorsement. So do we think that should be here? COE notification.
Applicants were.
Got procedures, submission.
And do we need a link to Article 6?
What are the thoughts on including notifications here?
So they do need certificate of endorsement. I'm not sure. Yeah, even for the land disturbance. So she's asking
If we need a,
51.
So one of the things I'm noting on 12.8.1A2, COEs are reviewed by the DRB, but it doesn't say that on the table on 12.2, so that should be added. An R under DRB on certificate of endorsement on the table.
Put a note about the ZPL.
So you need to put an R
But
on the,
if it was a ZPL, it should be not just a recommendation, it would be a final decision for the.
No, this says the decision is with the community development director.
But then why do we have it in the ZPL?
Does it say in here that certificates of endorsement are issued by the director?
A certificate of endorsement may be issued when the proposed material change in the opinion. must be maintained.
So the table
The
says they're the
table.
decision maker, but the provisions do not.
Mhm.
But I think,
Somebody's got to decide.
And this doesn't say, is it under the DRB
well,
section instead of this miscellaneous section?
let's see.
It looks like COEs is not quite as tight as everything else. I think we
So
do need to
certificate
say
approval.
someplace under C1,
C1.
a certificate of endorsement may be
Shall be-
issued by the director.
Somewhere that
Yeah,
came
you
from.
gotta say that because on 2, it's, must be maintained by the director.
Yeah, so issuance of certificate of endorsement from the original 64-1022. A COE may be issued when the proposed material change in the appearance or arrangement of the elements of the project is consistent with overlay district provisions. A copy of each final COE shall be maintained by the Community Development Department. Exceptions, appeals, deadline for consideration.
This makes it almost sound like the DRB is the decision maker on a COE.
I know, well,
Somewhere, my recollection when I wrote the ZPL ordinance is that I said, oh, well, look, the DRB issues these, so if they're issuing them, then we have to, and there's a public hearing related
applicants
to
for a
them.
city.
That's
'Cause
why we
it's-
added them to the ZPL list.
Yeah,
But because the DRB is all over the place,
yeah.
I- probably possible something didn't get transferred over because if they tried to put them in the same spot.
Can you look up what you put, where the reference is on the ZP? I mean, I can look it up. It's on our,
I know the DRB has decision authority on demolition
right, at the
permits.
demolition, but I'm thinking,
Anything else?
yeah, let me, but that's why he caught it on the ZPL, but let's see.
This kind of implies that even though it's written as they're reviewed, it sounds like, and it sounds like they're actually, the DRB actually, it's not a recommendation, they're the decision maker. Because this is talking about certificates of endorsement includes demolition permits. And I know a demolition permit is decided by the DRB. It's their quasi judicial. But some of these others, they're not the decision maker on, like land disturbance permits. They're just a recommender. It looks like this kind of get mishmashed together of, there's multiple certificates of endorsement, some of which the DRB is the decision maker on, and some of which,
So how do we unmishmash it?
Appeals. Zoning appeal.
and to make it consistent with the table. Because the table actually spells it out more. A demolition permit is called out, and a land disturbance permit is called out. And here it's mushed together.
So go to section 64-2427. But that's to the demolition permit. It's not to, there's only a certificate, and they make a decision on the demolition permit, but not, I don't see anything else about.
Maybe
all-
that's what
all
I'm,
rezonings. Zonings.
64-1022.
22.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The design review board shall conduct a public hearing with respect to each application or a certificate of endorsement before considering the application. Hearing shall be conducted, blah, blah, blah. Notice of hearing. Notice, so like 1022.
Again, it doesn't say who, that they make that decision.
Overlays, yeah, it's in the overlays, certificates of endorsement.
22. COA may be issued when the proposed material changes appearance consistent with overlay, a copy of it. It doesn't really say for that.
Yeah, this is taking that language.
It doesn't
I-
say that they approve it.
You're right.
No,
I think it just,
It just
they
says.
hear it. It doesn't say the director does either.
Application,
Nope.
but it, well,
just.
Right.
But it says that if it hadn't been acted on 90 days, it's approved.
Well, who issues, it
But
says a
who issued?
COE may be issued when the proposed material change in appearance, blah, 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 is consistent with the overlay. A copy of each final COE. I just know that Jackie always has Bob sign the certificate of endorsement. It's, I think. Oh, I guess she has the chair of
DRB.
the DRB do
DRB.
it, but I don't see where it says in here that the DRB approves it.
Doesn't.
Unless there's other, there are other sections that talk about what they, because you're right, the design review board, if you go to the rural Milton, review, semicolon, recommend, the design review board shall review for compliance with the standards herein and shall make recommendations to the community development department prior to the approval for the following. So that's under 1120, 64-1120 for the rural Milton. So I think that's part of the problem is that everything is inconsistent. But it says,
I was kind of
That
hoping
missed
this
that
was going
there.
to clean up the
Yeah,
DRB
there you go.
stuff. So, I mean, I would say we're trying to clean up the inconsistencies. So whatever you want to do, put it in here.
but it said the city design review board shall review for compliance with the standard and shall make recommendations to the community development department prior to the approval. So it's not like they're even approving, they're just making recommendations before we issue the permit, a
Does it
building
say
permit.
Does it say COE?
It says nothing about a COE.
It does
So
not
it's
say it
approval.
here. But
Yeah,
you're,
so
but
it
you're
doesn't-
right.
doesn't-
They're making recommendations to the community development director.
Except for the demolition, we made that a
Except,
totally
that's
new
right.
thing where they had the power to do it.
I mean, to clear it up, I think, first of all, we need to say who's issuing it.
That we need to what?
We need to say who's issuing this certificate of endorsement.
Right.
And I'm fine if I'm fine if they do.
See,
don't do it.
I think that overlay district and where they talk about certificate of endorsement, I do think it was, when it was Fulton County, if you look at it, they did not have design review boards for all of their overlay districts. Like State Route 9 was done administratively. So there couldn't have been a COE issued by the DRB because that didn't exist for that.
Mhm.
So I think that's in part where the inconsistencies are. I think it was probably
That's
meant.
what, this is to clear all that
No,
up.
I know. And so, okay. So there's a lot to clear up for the
But
DRB.
the DRB was probably the biggest thing that I have experienced over my
The
time trying to
time, yeah.
figure out. There's six places where we're pulling requirements from,
Okay.
and I think like, I didn't even know that there were actually different ones from Fulton
Right.
County.
So because we adopted Fulton
Yeah,
County.
yeah,
And we created the DRB to go over everybody, not just the
Yes.
rural, what was called whatever, the
Yeah.
rural Milton overlay. Because there was a State Route 9 overlay. And then the rest of Fulton County, there were other overlays that maybe some had a DRB and some didn't.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the COE was just a way for it administratively to say, okay, you've met all the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
I think that's a big area where this UDC, putting it all together, where this was something that could be cleared up.
Okay.
And define its role and what it decides and what it reviews and put it all in one place.
So to try to follow where you're going, if I go back to the table on 12.2, on a certificate, we're thinking that on a certificate of endorsement, the DRB is a reviewer and the community development director is the decision maker.
Except for demo permits.
Well, there is a
Those
separate
are
line for
different, yeah.
demo permits.
Right.
What actually on the table is incorrect because
Right.
it says that the DRB recommends when actually they approve.
Right.
And then does the community development director recommend? So is it wrong on the table under demolition?
Well, I
permit?
think just in general, like what you said, it's just very confusing. And that's what it's making it difficult to translate.
I was like, if we can get the table right, we might have some hope of getting
Right.
the
No, I get
code
it.
right.
You're right.
So the table, we need to, if we talk about the certificate of endorsement, the design review board reviews, is that accurate?
Yes.
Except
And then-
for,
Except for
Well,
demos.
but again, that.
But there's a line for
let's
demolition
start with
permits.
Demolition is called
4
out.
certificates of endorsement.
okay,
DRB reviews, director decides.
right.
Okay. 4 demolition permits, DRB decides, director blank.
Right.
Okay,
And for building permits with subsection 1, some limitations, the DRB reviews, the director decides. And likewise for yeah. So I just want to make sure the table is correct, and the table had demolition permit switched and was missing the review on the COE.
so we've got the changes to the table identified.
What Paul said.
Yeah,
I do.
Emily, you're good?
We can-
You're good, I'm good.
Okay. Now we need to clean up the language in 12.8.1 so it's clear that on all COEs other than demolition permits,
Do we have a separate COE for demolition permits?
well, it is because it's 12.8.4.
Does she follow those? Can you see where?
Oh, let's see, demolition permits.
On
I
four.
think we by default, it doesn't talk about COE, but because they make a decision, she issues them. But we can look to see. Oh, a demolition permit shall be submitted to community, requested demolition for all buildings, blah, blah, shall be reviewed. And shall be reviewed by, and then criteria for approving a demolition
The
permit,
DRB must use this in deciding to approve or deny.
right?
Now,
Yeah.
if you,
But
The city
I think what
council.
we do is we kind of created, oh, we're going to issue them a certificate of endorsement to give them for the demolition permit once it's issued, just like we do for, so I think we've just kind of like trying to have a policy that we're giving a document to them, say, okay, you've been approved. And this is, we're using the certificate of endorsement, whether it's in the ordinance or not, because it doesn't say anything.
What
Well, it doesn't say it in the demolition section, but it does
They're
talk
getting
about,
a demolition permit. Well, why aren't we just creating a document that says permit your demo? You're saying you're giving them a piece of paper that says certificate of endorsement when they get approved for a demolition permit?
I'm pretty sure, right?
No, we give them the certificate of endorsement after the DRB decision,
To,
and then they have to apply for a separate permit.
right, but that's what I'm saying. We give them, based on the DRB's decision, if they approve the demolition, we give them a certificate of endorsement. And then they have to get the
Right, then they
building
have to get a
permit.
separate permit.
They have to get a separate permit to do the physical work of demoing it.
I have a suggestion that might make this flow, because it seems like we almost started in the middle. If we start where the first miscellaneous provision is a demolition permit, which reads fairly clearly that says the DRB approves that. And then we do certificates of endorsement and clarify that the certificate of endorsement for a demolition permit is based on DRB approval, but the rest applies, because even though it's like the DRB approved a demo permit, but this community development director is still going to issue that certificate of endorsement for that, plus land disturbance permits, plus building permits. And then the next one of them is a certificate of occupancy, and kind of, but if we start with
Honestly,
demo.
I would suggest we may be a step ahead of where we need to be. I feel like staff and Caleb need to go through.
Yeah, I think there's no way we can fix it all tonight. Maybe we just bring it back.
We
once
bring 1281.
Yeah, we can do that. Well, let's
But we
work on
can
it.
fix the table though, right?
Right, okay,
Okay.
but we
Staff may
found
need
the
to make sure that
certificate
the
of
table's
appropriate.
right.
I think that we were just
No, the
trying to
table was wrong.
No, I
give
meant
people, because sometimes people don't
got done.
demo their building right away. And so then it's just a way for them to see, okay, you officially were approved by but we'll work on it, Caleb, and we'll.
Okay, so you're gonna
We're gonna redo that. We're not gonna solve
We're
that
gonna
tonight.
see
We're not gonna
1281
solve it
later.
tonight.
Okay,
Okay.
so we can move on to 52, or are we gonna review,
I got-
revisit all of,
Yeah, there was a couple others I saw on 51.
okay?
Three, should it say consider interior or exterior features?
Yes.
One, we've already defined COE.
Okay.
12.1. Should it say upon days?
But getting back to, for the B3 one, it's interiors or exterior features which are not visible from a public street.
Interior.
I think it's okay
It's okay.
as that
Okay.
one's written.
Okay.
All right, Paul, we'll give you that one.
Yeah.
Let's see, E,
E, yeah.
second to last sentence in E. Delete the and after 90 days. It says acted upon within 90 days, the application will be considered to be approved and submitted.
Took the end out, okay.
And then-
Just out of, I always ask the city, do you want deemed approved as a tip? The safer course I've found is deemed denied is you don't wind up with something you don't want. But there's also policies that supports that, but I just make sure that people know that if something falls through the cracks, it gets approved. That's policy.
12.8.2A.
All right,
Says with the building code, and then it says, and this other provision of this required. That meant,
This other provision,
yeah.
not vague. This other provision, you know,
What other?
wink, wink, nod, nod, that other one. The provision of the envelope filled
So
with,
are we striking this other provision of, and it just says, and this UDC?
I would think so.
Yeah. 12.8.2 references the building official.
Is there such a person as
Who
the
is?
building official?
Yes, there is.
Oh, there we go.
There's a building official?
Is it defined?
Exists.
Yeah, look to see it,
The
yes.
building
He's the real
official?
guy.
Yeah, he's the
I
building.
think
He's the only one that can issue that.
Okay.
All right.
There is a building official. Got it. All right.
Not defined, but.
well, I think partly because we kept the building code out of the UDC, but
But it's
Fine.
not
It's not a
defined.
defined term?
No.
I think we might want to add that,
Okay.
the building official. We'll
Better
make a
hope I
note
don't
for
lose
next month.
Chapter 13.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'm the only one keeping up with this.
Stay away from buses.
We're recording.
Have to be here next month. You can't be sick or on vacation.
We don't wanna miss
Or
that.
working elections.
Yeah, I was gonna add that.
Mhm.
All right, so does that mean we're done with 51 kind of? Kind of, all right. 52.
52.
Formatting of C, leading letter caps, no period.
Okay, 52 online, we just have, should heading be in caps for consistency, should be review board capitalized, I'm assuming.
Those are both in reference to C.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're good with that. Now here we have GIS system spelled out though. If you look under C1, do we need graphic information system spelled out? See, we were
It's-
using GIS earlier.
It's a different GIS.
Well, that's the
That's all
George's
we
National
had.
Archaeological. That's a different one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Simple no would have been fine.
But we were right.
You know, the tone changes after 9 o'clock.
We're getting defensive.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yeah. 53.
Another picky on 52. The plot plan must show, I think after 4, there needs to be an and.
Can you repeat that?
Where? I'm sorry.
Okay, on page 52, there's a list of 5 items on the
Yes.
left.
Mhm.
On item number 4, after the semicolon, and. Because it's a must-show list.
Okay.
And going to the next page.
Okay, online on 53, she talked about having a demolition time period. We don't have any set, according to this, no set time.
When they
period.
have to actually do it, you mean?
Correct.
No, we don't.
So, and I think her point on this was, a lot of times the demolition is something that somebody doesn't want to do, so they might drag their feet, so there's no sense of urgency to get that done, or aren't we?
Yeah, sometimes it's not for a couple of years. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we
Right.
don't have anything baked in right now, so.
Okay,
I did notice though, when I listened to the last DRB, like somebody was they were given code violations and then another, and it was like, get in here. And then they were told, and get back here quick because your application was not complete. So they were pressuring them pretty much to say, you need
But
to.
I'm just saying, once they issue, right, I mean, I
Because
think
they
because
were
it was a
getting vi-
code violation, yeah,
were
that's
getting
gonna
code
push it. But
violations.
if it's just,
Yeah.
oh, I want to take this, 20-year-old house down because eventually I'm gonna build a nicer, bigger house. So, there's no code violation. It's just them doing it, so.
Yeah, but to the point, the idea is if it is getting code violations, I was
Right,
noticing the
yeah, I think that's
DRB and
different.
staff
There's
were
some-
pushing
so
them.
there's some
Yeah, there is a sense of urgency.
Now,
If
if
there's
you get
code
a
violations.
building permit, if you actually apply for the demolition building permit, that's only good for 6 months. So that does, but
But you're-
once the DRB says it's okay to do it, you don't have to go back and ask again, like, so.
All right.
On 52 and 53, kind of C 1, 2, and 3, can we make those all consistent, or actually 4, whether the building or structure is listed, whether there is any historic scenic, whether there is any significant importance, whether it would be difficult?
So strike the is and put whether.
And then
Is
you
and
gotta
would and
bring an
put whether.
is somewhere else, and whether the building or structure is,
Okay.
basically just make them all say, start with whether and make them read correctly. 1, 2,
Well-
3, and 4.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't mention the GIS system in C1 then either.
I wouldn't,
I wouldn't mention that.
I'm not gonna.
No.
Touchy subject.
So, all right, 53, you said you wanted those changes on the ises, the wheres.
Yeah.
Anything else on 53? All right,
I like how penalties is the last subsection.
Mhm. But it only applies to 12.8.4
Yeah.
until we get to 12.9.
all right. So 54. Okay, 55. All right, no going back. All right,
Hey.
congratulations, guys, thank you. So now we just have definitions left, right?
Yeah, and then
He's
we'll
gonna do that all by
revisit
himself.
the, yeah.
Good idea.
I'm making a motion to
They're
adjourn.
gonna then present, they're going.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Who made, okay, I'm sorry, I'm like,
13 is 61 pages. This
where's
was,
mine?
54.
Definitions.
Oh, well, you're doing the minutes from now on.
And it-
so-
I got notes. I got notes.
Oh, you got it? You're on it?
I got notes. I got